Good Friday morning, and welcome to a playoff Friday football fiesta. Jimmy Chavez,
It's true.
Matt McMaster here. No Gary Sharp. He and the boys, and when I mean the boys, when I'm referencing the boys, I mean Omaha men's
The
basketball.
rest of the zone,
No, not
No.
Connor Happer and Josh Peterson
They
and
will be
John
working.
Bishop. No. I'm talking about the Omaha men's basketball team. Gary and the boys are on the road. They are going to Houston today. I do not know what time they're supposed to be leaving or if they left already. They play tomorrow at 6 o'clock against Lamar. A rematch from last season. It was a November tilt in Akron, Ohio between
Of course.
Lamar and Omaha. I believe Omaha won that game by 5. So they will play tomorrow. And then Omaha next weekend will actually be in Oregon taking on the Ducks. So a place where Chris Crutchfield, I believe, formerly played. And then on January 1st, or not formerly played, formerly coached at. And then on January 1st, Summit League play will begin for the Mavericks. They take on South Dakota State to start off their Summit League
Nothing like New
conference
Year's in Brookings.
season. Nothing like New Year's in Brookings, Jimmy Chavez.
I've done Waco on New Year's.
I've only
Warmer.
I've actually only ever done Lincoln and Chicago on New Year's. I'm not very, like I said, I'm not a experienced in where to watch college football games. I
Now,
haven't.
to
I
be
know
fair,
I'm young.
he's working. I was working too because we had a game at Baylor that afternoon. But that particular day was the last day that Tony Romo wore a uniform of any football
wow.
uniform, and so he started that game because the seating was clinched, and that was his last game.
Great point. I
Watched it in the tunnel while
that.
I ate some. The hell did we eat? It's something Waco. It wasn't Magnolia.
Is there like an age for when New Year's Eve gets too old for people? Because I might be reaching that age already.
No, I don't think so.
Like I have a opportunity to go out and pay a lot of money to be at bars and to pay covers and to get the wristbands and to pop champagne and do all that
who
stuff.
Your company is.
Yeah, I know. I have the opportunity to do that. I also just had the opportunity to go to a local, like the bar that I grew up going. Well, the bar that everybody grew up going to. Yeah, my Cheers essentially,
and just, you don't have to pay.
And just sitting there and just drinking, draft domestic beer and hanging out with my friends. Am I a loser, Jimmy Chavez, for not wanting to?
Wait, you would still do something.
Yes,
you would still do something with your friends.
Yeah,
at a bar.
That's
not being a loser.
But like,
that's being smart.
See, the thing is though, is
why
that,
do you want to pay the cover?
Aren't I 23? Like, aren't I supposed to go out and like try and find someone to share a kiss with at New Year's?
But you still can at your local bar. That's the fun of it.
No, I'd be kissing somebody's mother if we were.
Even better. Okay. I like where this is going.
I think you're probably the last person that I should have proposed that to. Anyway, here, Gary and Matt on 1620.
Now I'm invested in your New Year's.
A playoff Friday football fiesta, and also an incredibly interesting NFL slate. Will kick off the college football playoff tonight, and probably what will be the most competitive game out of the 4 that we have on the slate. Oklahoma takes on Alabama in Norman, man. That's going to be absolutely rocking.
Brahms will be off the hook.
Dude, Brett Venables, very sneaky story, has had Alabama's number in the very brief Kalen DeBoer era. Crimson Tide are 0-2 against Venables and have turned the ball over way too much against his stymied defense. We'll get into that game and the 3 others. Texas A&M taking on Miami, which is a wildly interesting affair between 2 teams that at one point we considered, true national title contenders who are now kind of falling on the wayside a bit. But look, if we learned anything from last season, Jimmy, it takes one win. I mean, Ohio State coming off of that Michigan defeat. I mean, I don't think the chatter of firing Ryan Day was ever legitimate. I don't think that the higher powers in Columbus, Ohio, ever really truly thought they were going to sack Ryan Day after the success he had at Ohio State, regardless of the fact that he had not won a national title yet.
He would have been unemployed for about 3 seconds.
But we were, that was a big topic of conversation about Ohio State. And we were even talking about what the hell happens when Tennessee, which, by the way, the Tennessee, volunteer fans showed up big time.
They were going to take
Columbus.
over the stadium.
That was, I mean,
there were ugly.
They were Ohio State fans who didn't really have a want to go to that home playoff game after the just embarrassing defeat to Michigan. They go ahead. Tennessee does take over the stadium, but Ohio State comes out there and, man, they were firing on all cylinders. And I remember watching the first half of that game thinking, man, if this team continues to play like this, they're going to win the national championship. And they ended up doing that. All this to say, Jimmy Chavez, it just takes one really, really dominant performance. It takes one really, really good game.
And then you get on a heater.
And you get on a heater. And you get on a roll and things are clicking. And then all of a sudden it's within your reach. It's within your grasp. You're thinking, hey, we just gotta win 2 more games, to go ahead and be in the national championship. And when you're in the national championship, anything can happen. So A&M and Miami, those are two teams that I would probably peg as, hey, look out if they get rolling, because we've seen them throughout the season. When they are rolling, it's incredibly difficult to defeat them. Then we kind of had the meh games. We got Ole Miss versus Tulane. Could be an interesting one. I think that game, let me look at the spread. I think it's only like a 16.5 point difference between those two teams. But Tulane actually looked really, really good against North Texas. The game they needed to win to end up playing Ole Miss. And then Ole Miss is essentially at this point America's darling because of just how poorly Lane Kiffin handled his departure. Who would have thought that would have occurred, Jimmy Chavez? Probably everybody. Yeah. Tulane is 17.5 point underdog. And then James Madison takes on Oregon, which, by the way, that line has moved from James Madison being a 21.5 point underdog to James Madison being a 20.5 point underdog. So clearly some money coming in on JMU. We will talk about all 4 of those games in depth between me and you. And Brett Ciancia is back. Mr. Pick 6 Previews, Pick 6 Plus. He has been on a hiatus for the last 2 weeks. I think he's been on vacation, if I'm not mistaken.
I have no idea.
So we will. Well, I texted him last night,
okay.
and he was like, "We just got off the flight." I'm like, "Okay." So I guess we'll go ahead and ask him. I take him. I don't know. I think Brett Ciancia is probably what? What do you think? A Cancun guy? I don't. Do you think does he strike you as an Eastern European guy?
No, he strikes.
Yeah,
me
you
as
see. That's the thing.
Beach, try and shut it down.
You know what? I think that's actually
knowing him
really
watching football at the beach.
That'd be a really good game if you put a person right in front of you and you just guessed, did they travel to Eastern Europe for their, out of country trip, or did they go to Mexico?
You're gonna find out he went to Akron or something.
I feel like you could definitely look at somebody and be like, you like to vacation in the Caribbean and you like to vacation in Eastern Europe. Like there's without a doubt. I look at Gary Sharp. I go, you're a Cancun guy. You're a Cabo guy.
You're a Les Hills guy.
Yeah, you are. You're a Sandals Jamaica guy.
You're a Mahoney guy.
Yeah, but I look at Josh Peterson. And I immediately think, no, you probably like Croatia. You probably like going to Spain.
I don't know. Knowing Josh, I would say Canton. That might be a compliment.
Ohio's beautiful.
I would think that's a compliment.
How is the weather going to be this weekend? I don't
here.
Yeah, in Omaha. Is it going to be
40s tomorrow?
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Man, we've had a hell of a week of
weather.
Could
be shorts on Christmas here.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm a white Christmas guy. I prefer white Christmas.
They'll change.
Brett Ciancia on at 7:30. He'll be talking about all the playoff games that will be on our plate. And then Lee Sterling will join us at 7:50 to give you his picks for the weekend to help you go ahead and make money heading into the holiday season. Maybe, well, not encouraging it, but maybe you make like a really good bet and you're like, oh, I guess I am going to get my wife a gift this Christmas. So Lee will give you his picks. I'm not encouraging that at all, by the way.
Oh, look at that. 58. Let's go.
Look at that.
Give me that. Dead, dry grass, dry roads. Yeah.
That'd be great.
Oh,
this whole week has been awesome. I've hopped in my car multiple times. I'm like, it's 59 degrees.
Yeah.
It's absolutely phenomenal. So at 9:00, big game Wilson Moore will join us at 9 to talk all things Huskers. And then at 9:20, Lauren Michelson of KETV will join us.
Debut?
I think Gary told me that she has been on the station before.
Oh, I meant on the show. I'm sure she's been on the station.
I think she's been on the show before. I don't know. I think
I know you wanted to get her on. So
I know. Lauren's a good friend of mine, and she's absolutely incredible at what she does. And she's a Swiss Army knife in terms of the fact that she covers just about everything across not just Omaha, but Nebraska in general. The Huskers, the Mavericks, the Blue Jays, volleyball, basketball, football. Lauren has just kind of seen it and been through it all. She actually started working in Lincoln and then moved out here to Omaha. So she will go ahead and join us at 9:20 to talk all things Nebraska sports. So that is today's lineup, which is powered by the rooferys at John Higgins Weather Guard. And if you want to join us on the show, you can go ahead and call in the Prairie Flower Casino hotline, 402-951-1620. Prairie Flower Casino. Play longer, win more. We have a really good show ahead of you, talking about some movement on the Iowa coaching staff, talking about Matt Rule's supposed to speak today. Rob Orich spoke for the first time on the Huskers radio network. But anything happened yesterday, Jimmy Chavez? Anything happened last night for about what felt like 7 hours on my television on Amazon Prime? Did you stay up for that game?
Hell no. Yeah, as soon as The Apprentice went to bed, I followed her. I don't even think it was halftime yet. But I did think as I went to bed, I was like, I bet this will be a decent football game. But no, I was doing the nodding off on the couch thing. I had Al Michaels energy on my couch.
Okay, so there we go. That we'll talk about that at some point.
See, I didn't get a nap in yesterday, so I was struggling. It's cold. And
yeah,
that's that time of year. But I heard it was a hell of a game.
We've had back-to-back weeks of absolute. I mean, so the Falcons Tampa Bay Buccaneers game,
was pretty decent for what it was.
Yeah, I guess it didn't really matter for both teams. It mattered for the Buccaneers, and they crapped the bed. And it was a banger of a comeback for the Falcons, who won that game 29-28. So we've actually had back-to-back weeks of some incredible Thursday night football comebacks. But Thursday night football this year overall has been incredibly hit or miss. I mean, there have been some, dating all the way back to the beginning of the season, there was some really decent comebacks. And then there's also just been some absolute stinkers where the game did not matter at all.
Worthy of a Thursday
Well,
night
the Raiders-Broncos game was absolutely disgusting. The Ravens-Dolphins game was absolutely disgusting. That Eagles-Giants game, though, where the Giants ended up beating the Eagles by 17 points was wild. And you got to remember that 49ers-Rams game where at the time it was I think it was early October, the Niners were, Mac Jones was playing. I think a lot of people doubted whether or not they were going to compete with Mac Jones, and they ended up beating the Rams, who still look great now, but were looking really, really good then as well. So we've had a very mixed bag.
They blew a lead last night?
Yes. The Seahawks ended up winning.
Okay. I saw that because I woke up in the middle of the night. I was like, oh, who won that football
With 8
game?
minutes left in the fourth quarter, the Seahawks were down. The score was 14-30. And it was 14-30, and Sam Darnold just threw an interception, basically at the goal line against the Rams. And the game was over. It was all right, whatever. I guess Sam Darnold isn't the dude.
Yeah, maybe the Supersonics will come back.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where the Rams are just clearly better. I can't believe. Do you know what happened? Do you know what occurred last night in terms of all the happenings?
Because
it was a crazy ass game, Jimmy.
Because it ended up in overtime, and it was a 1-point win for the Seahawks.
So I guess I will be the guy who details everything that happens.
Please tell me what I missed while I was dreaming.
So the Rams go ahead. They have a chance to basically ice the game, to run out the clock with about halfway through the fourth quarter. They've done it, continuously throughout the game. Matthew Stafford throwing for, I think he threw for over 400 yards. Yeah, 457 yards and 3 touchdowns. Just absolutely torched what was a great Seattle Seahawks defense. Puka Nacua had an all-time game. 225 yards, 2 touchdowns, 12 receptions. Shout out Puka Nacua fantasy football owners. Absolute legend for those people. It is playoff time, semifinal time. They had the ball, 3 and out. They punt it. Rashid Shaheed, who the Seattle Seahawks traded for midseason from the New Orleans Saints, returns the kick for a touchdown. So all of a sudden,
that's looking good.
22-30. Quick little 2-point conversion for the Seattle Seahawks. The Rams get the ball back. They end up punting the football once again. Sam Darnold and the boys march down the field. They actually ran the ball a ton because they didn't trust Darnold to throw at the time. Rashid Shaheed also had an end around that went for another 30 yards. So went ahead, they score, and they go for 2, Jimmy. Okay, it's 28-30.
You could have stopped any one of these 2-point conversions.
And well, they did.
They did.
They throw a screen pass, and it bounces off the helmet of a Seattle or of a Rams defender, and the play's over. It's kind of done. All right, whatever. And the ball just rolls into the end zone, and Zach Charbonnet, for no other reason, decides, all right, well, I'm gonna pick this ball up and I'm gonna hand it to the referee.
Wait, was it called a lateral?
So he picks up the ball in the end zone. He hands it to the referee. The two teams go to the sideline, and then somebody pages down Mike McDonald and says, "Hey, dude, we threw that ball backwards.
Challenge it."
And that ended up in the end zone. And Charbonnet picked up the ball, challenged the play. And so they went ahead and they challenged, and this is the only thing I think the booth did all day. They kind of said, I don't think the crowd knows what's going on right now. So all of a sudden, plays under review. People are murmuring and whispering. They get back out on the field. The referee goes, so it was a lateral. It was a fumble. It was covered by the offense in the end zone. We got a 2-point conversion. That's good. So the score was 30-30. The 12th man erupted. They blew.
And McVay's like, what the hell just happened?
They blew up. So then we go ahead. We get to overtime. The Rams march down the field. Puka Nacua scores the second touchdown of the game. Absolutely incredible route. Great throw by Matthew Stafford. It was one of the worst overtime touchdown calls I've ever heard.
No.
Just no energy. Past Al's bedtime, clearly.
Not judging.
37-30. Darnold has the ball. He's played like crap for most of the game. Missed throws, off timing on his receivers. He threw a pick six, and he threw that pick I mentioned earlier at the goal line. Jimmy, the man dropped dimes.
Wow.
Drops dimes. They drive down the field.
Darnold.
37-36 is our score. The Seahawks go for two for a third time.
All you got to do is stop it.
I don't think the guy who ended up catching the 2-point conversion, I don't think he's caught a ball all year.
Steve,
he just snapped the ball. He chipped his D end. He waited there for another 2 seconds, ran a quick little hitch at the front of the end zone. Darnold found him, popped it right to him. The Seahawks win. They were in control of the NFC West. They were the 1 seed in the playoffs. I will go ahead and look at, I believe their Super Bowl odds. Now here's the thing.
Now you've been high on him the past couple of weeks. So I've actually taken a little more interest in him. I was like, what has he seen? I
have the ticket. I have the plus 800 ticket, which has now moved down to plus 550. The Rams are still the Super Bowl favorite at plus 490 to win the big one. But the Seahawks, I got them at plus 800. They're at plus 550. They got a great defense. Now, granted, Matthew Stafford, I know they lost the game. He secured the MVP. The MVP is locked up. Matthew Stafford has finally won the trophy that has eluded plenty of great quarterbacks, and he definitely has been one of them. I mean, it's quite incredible that, Drew Brees went his whole career, never won an MVP, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. But Matt Ryan, who, let's be honest here, not as great as Drew Brees, ended up winning an MVP. Cam Newton, who's not even close to the legacy of Drew Brees, ended up winning the MVP. And Matthew Stafford was very much on his way to doing that, to being kind of the next Drew Brees and Hall of Fame quarterback with an incredibly successful and long-tenured career that never won that big award. He locked it up yesterday. The Seahawks defense, according to EPA, according to all the statistics, one of the best in the league. Stafford just absolutely carved him. I think he was up to like over 230 passing yards like in the beginning of the third quarter. So he played one hell of a game.
He looked good for the time.
That Rams offense is awesome. That Rams offense is incredible. Blake Corum has been such a big deal for that team, taking the load off of Kyren Williams. Sean McVay established the run, and he did a great job of just not giving up on it. Kyren did not have his best game, but he continued to give him the ball. They ran a lot of stuff off of play action.
It's a big loss they're going to
and they didn't have Devontae Adams in this game, and yet, because it's just Les Snead is just such a good general manager, and McVay is just, and we'll talk about this later in the show, Sean McVay's best attribute is just taking his personnel and putting them in the best positions possible. They were thrown to some guys that
works.
You haven't seen from the entirety of the year, just dicing up an incredible Seattle defense. And let's be, if you're really following the game closely, right, and following these teams closely, the Rams may have lost the battle, but they might have won the war, Jimmy, because Nick Emenwari, who is one of the best players for Seattle on their defense, he's a Swiss Army knife in terms of he can come off the edge, he can play safety, he can come down to the box, he can, roam the middle of the field, but he's also just this big physical hitter. I mean, he's basically essentially a Cam Chancellor type for Seattle. Once again, he got hurt and did not return to the game. And then you got a guy, Kobe Bryant, Coby, I believe is how you spell his name. He is a Seattle safety. He's been having a really good year. He was out. So you got two guys in this secondary / just the Swiss Army knife. That is Nick Emenwari, where we will obviously be following their health, just because if they're not healthy, I don't know, what Seattle is really going to look like on that side of the ball, because they're just so both vitally important. But all this to say, the Rams look really good, but it was special teams. They entering this game, the Los Angeles Rams were 24th in special teams efficiency. The Seattle Seahawks were 4th. That punt return touchdown, along with a couple other returns and just really good coverage from Seattle, ended up flipping this game. And look, Sam Darnold did not have his best game, and if Sam Darnold continues to play like that, Seattle will not go far. And they will not make the run that they can potentially make. At the same time, though, he did not play well, and they still beat the best team in the NFL. And so it was a hell of a victory by the Seahawks. Man, that stadium, when it's rocking, when it's going, it is incredible. The home field advantage that they give their team. And now, the Seahawks, I mean, the playoffs essentially now look, they still have 2 more games to play. They got to play the Panthers next week, and then they play the 49ers, which if the 49ers end up beating the Bears next weekend, that very well could be for the NFC West. But I think the 49ers, I believe, are 1 game behind at this point, Seattle. So if Seattle just wins out, they will have won the division in the NFC West and have the 1 seed. If they end up getting the 1 seed, it's going to be hard.
It's tough to win there.
Really, any team to go into that building and to beat that team. But if you're a Rams fan, I think you just kind of toss it up to, man, that was freaky. Man, that was weird. I'm glad we lost that game in the regular season and not in the postseason. And if you're a Seahawks fan, do you know who you apologize to?
Nobody.
Not a damn person.
And you know what? Anytime Stan Kroenke loses, it's a good day. So we're okay.
All right, let's talk about the main event here.
What would that be? Oh, I know what that would be. You're rocking your very
it's time for
nifty quarter zip. Oh, I thought you want to talk Packers Bears already. I thought we are just going to do that for 3.5 hours. I was ready.
It's time for Al to retire.
Like today?
Yeah.
Was it that? It was that bad?
It was that bad. Oh. It was terrible, Jimmy. So at the end of the third quarter, Puka Nacua, I mean, the game is kind of in balance here. And it's 22-14. It's third down. It's a big down. They're at midfield. If the Seahawks get a stop, Rams got a punt. Mm-hmm. They give Seattle the ball back. Even after the pick six, Seattle is firmly in the game. Go ahead. Third down snap. Puka Nacua, loose coverage, kind of just breaks down the middle of the field. Stafford hits him in stride, gets it all the way to the 5. You would have thought it was a 3-yard out route. That ended up short of the sticks. It was a disgusting lack of energy, and just it was brutal. And then the Nacua overtime touchdown was brutal as well. There was just a lack of pop, a lack of stakes, a lack of circle. Like, that game ended up 38-37, and it was one of the just craziest games in recent memory in terms of just good football and weirdness and special teams plays and defensive plays. And, a guy who was playing like crap the entire game ends up stepping up in the biggest moment. And you would have thought that it was a 12 o'clock game between the third place team in the NFC South and the fourth place team in the AFC West.
So a Kenny Albert game.
Like, yeah, essentially. I mean, it was, but Kenny Albert would have actually given you energy. Kenny Albert would have actually given you some pop. Kenny Albert would have actually given you, like, some, oh my God, what is going on? It was, and then, like, Kirk Herbstreit, he didn't really, let's be honest, he didn't really add a whole lot to the broadcast either. Yesterday, he tried saying that Rashid Shaheed was from Boise State and then had to correct himself, and he was like from Weber State, which, by the way, if like Kirk Herbstreit is really going to add anything to that broadcast,
he doesn't.
The fact.
His dog adds more.
Well, I mean, it's just, his dog, I don't even think his dog is there, but if he's going to add anything, it's the fact that he can tell you where these guys ended up playing college football, and he was even failing to do that yesterday.
Only if it's in the SEC.
Man, that Amazon broadcast, the cameras, the camera angles, the clarity of picture,
their
the
panel's
production.
Good. I like their panel.
Their panel is awesome.
That's actually why I watch some of these games.
Like
a little bit.
Like it is, man. It has been the Whitworth and Sherman and Carissa Thompson and Fitzpatrick and Gonzalez. Like it has been a good year for that panel. It's been entertaining, and
they don't scream at you.
No, they do a proper production that talks about the game, and then they go to the booth, and it is just like, man, you might as well just go ahead and take some Xanax. Go ahead and take an Ambien. Go ahead and take it. Like, just go to sleep, because it's just one of those things where, drugs. Man, it's just, it was one of the most exciting games of the year, and you have an old man up there whose time has passed. Al Michaels is no longer in his prime. Al Michaels is no longer one of the best announcers in the game. Al Michaels is no longer, the cream of the crop when it comes to, broadcasting. And that game deserved a younger broadcaster, whether it be younger in the sense that they're 55, younger in the sense that they're 40 or 30, just younger with just more energy and more pop and just more excitement.
Look at the NBA and what they've done.
I know. The NBA, man, the NBA's got, you're totally right, Jimmy. The NBA's got some hot announcers. And I think the one that we always think of is Noah Eagle, right? Where I don't know, is Noah doing, Noah's doing college football, but he's not doing NFL games.
No.
Yeah. I mean, I think that would be a great addition to the Thursday night football broadcast, in my opinion. But I mean, that's the thing where it's like, it was one of those things where it's like, you got to honor a legend. You got to respect everything that he's done, but you're also watching that game. You're like, dude, come on.
Well, all of us that grew up with Al remember Al from a different time where a game like that would have been right in his wheelhouse last night. And I think about how I grew up, Al, Frank, and Dan on Monday night. That was a perfect example. If you would get a game, you mentioned the craziness of this game. One game I think of now, never mind the booth was Dan Fouts and Dennis Miller with them. That's not my point. But there was a Jets-Dolphins game 25 years ago that was insane. It was nuts. Jumbo Elliott caught a touchdown. The Jets came back to win but Al was pretty much on top of his game. So I get what you're saying.
He's just old. He's just old, and he doesn't have energy. And like, that was a game that was the ultimate energy game. I mean, it was 30-14 halfway through the fourth quarter. The game was over. The Rams had the ball. There was no way that you didn't think they were going to march down the field, score again, make this a blowout or drain the clock. And it took a Rashid Heed punt return touchdown and a big run and a score and everything like that for them to win that game. And it just lacked the pop. It lacked, like, there should have been at least like one. That game literally had 3 different moments that could have had legendary calls. Like, and that is a game.
You remember that Jags-Chargers playoff game? That was part of the big where it's like, could you be any less excited? This was a good game.
I mean, on the comeback, the big comeback from the Jags. Like, it was one of those things, Jimmy, where it's like, this is a game that in July on the NFL Network, they will be playing, and you'll sit down and be like, oh, I forgot about this one. You're going to sit down and you're going to watch this game. And it just had just bland, low T calls that just like, I don't know. I think I think for Amazon, hiring Al Michaels and hiring Kirk Herbstreit they were pizzazz hires. They were big names. They got you interested in this. Oh, Amazon is broadcasting football now. Like, this is new. I wonder what it's going to look like. It sold tickets at the front door when you first hired them. Now that everybody realizes that Amazon puts on a good product,
you have a potential to do something really good.
And it's worth watching. You don't need Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit's name to get people at the door.
We already get too much Kirk as it is.
Yeah, we
don't need any more Kirk.
I like Kirk for college football. I love Kirk.
That's what I'm saying. That's all we need. Just have Kirk on game day. You give him your Saturday night game. We don't need just too much Kirk. I'd rather have more Joel Klatt than Kirk.
Well, I believe they're announcing the game tonight. I think Kirk is on the call tonight with Fowler on the Alabama-Oklahoma game. So that should be entertaining. We'll talk about that game coming up here in the show. Should be a good one. Can Kalen DeBoer slain his Brett Venables demon? What? Did we really think that that was going to be a thing for DeBoer when he came from Washington to Alabama? We will talk about that with Brett Cianci at 7:50. Lee Sterling will follow him up directly, and then go ahead and give us his picks heading into a really good weekend of college football and the NFL. And then on top of that, Big Game Willie talking all things Husker basketball at 9 o'clock. And then at 9:20, we'll be joined by the Swiss Army knife that is Lauren Michelson talking all things Nebraska sports. 9:40, we'll give you our picks heading into the weekend on this playoff Friday football fiesta. We got a lot of things to get to today on this football or Friday football fiesta, the playoff edition of this Friday football fiesta. College football playoffs in full swings. 4 games this weekend to determine the quarterfinals of the college football playoff, and then that's when more than likely we will get the marquee matchups that will then determine our semis. Got a lot of really good guests and a lot of good things to talk about throughout not just the NFL, but or not just college football, the NFL as well, with some other college basketball things. Creighton plays tomorrow against Marquette. Can the Blue Jays keep that momentum that they got from absolutely dominating Xavier in their last contest? Can they keep that momentum rolling? We'll talk about that throughout the show. But before we get to that, we go to the Prairie Flower Casino hotline. Random Mike. How are you, Mike? How you doing, my man?
Hey, Matt, I think your sources in Lincoln can help me here.
Okay.
This will be less random than usual.
Okay. I'm excited. I'm excited.
Andy Jackson in volleyball and the importance of really good assistant coaches. What are your sources telling you about Andy Jackson and the flu? Was she suffering at all?
I don't know. I don't know anything about that or whether or not she might have picked up the illness from Bergen Riley or anything like that. I could probably find that out for you. Send a couple text messages, but I didn't see that. Is that a rumor that's going on, Mike? I didn't see that.
No, I'm just being logical. But I mean, she could have been National Player of the Year. She was absolutely sensational. She set the record for hitting, and she was horrible hitting against this team. Logically, you would think, well, very possibly she was not herself.
Yeah, maybe Mike.
The flu spreading.
Yeah, maybe Mike. But at the same time, like, if you watch that Texas A&M game, man, they were physical at the point of attack. They were physical at the block. I mean, they had some athletes on that Texas A&M team, and I just think, Mike, they did a really good job of just kind of making Andy uncomfortable, and they anticipate. I mean, how many times did Nebraska go to the slide with Andy Jackson, something that has worked time and time again, and they were right there to contest it? I understand what you're saying when you have literally the most efficient hitter in Big Ten history, which she was this season. When they have a bad game like that, you start to question maybe some things were off. But just watching the game, I just think that Texas A&M was ready for her. They executed their game plan against one of the most dangerous volleyball players in the country. And I just also, too, these are athletics, right? I mean, this is just sports. Sometimes you just don't have your best stuff. And I just don't think she did.
Yeah, that's very possible. But, the great ones adjust, and she was given 3 opportunities
You're right.
to make those adjustments. But logically, you have to assume. I do remember going back to the great Nebraska teams, we lost a Big 12 championship game to Texas. We were much better than them, but the flu had really swept through the team. It happened, and many were affected, and everybody that was close to the situation said if that hadn't happened, it wouldn't even been close. But, okay, my other question is about the importance of assistants. I don't know about you guys. I am really encouraged by the new assistants, the O-line coach and the defensive coordinator that Rule has hired. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, yes, it's hard. It's hard for me to say anything other than you look at their resumes and you're encouraged by what they've done in the past. I don't know if I'm necessarily, Mike, going to be drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm not saying you are, drinking the Kool-Aid, but I don't think I'm going to be over excited or overhyped about the hiring of these two new assistant coaches until we actually see some results on the field. But at the same time, it's like you look at the resume, you're like, hey, they know what they're doing,
Yeah, but did you see the interviews with them? I mean, did you actually listen to them?
I did. I saw the interviews with Rob Orch yesterday. I read the interviews with Cheap Weight. I didn't listen to them in full transparency, but I listened to the entire Orch interview, and it was kind of vanilla. We won't talk about it too much because it was kind of basic stuff. But I think you talk about energy, right? And clearly, I think there was a lack of it in Nebraska's program last year, which is unacceptable. He's going to bring it for sure. You can tell that by how he talks.
Here's my point. I think we agree on this because it is mind-blowing that Matt Rule in the last 9 years has not beaten a ranked team. And I know he was in the pros too, which he couldn't beat the good teams either there. If anybody needs really good assistance, because I think as a CEO or as a guy that does a lot of great things for the organization, he's really good. And Bob Devaney was that way too. Bob Devaney acknowledged he needed great assistants, and he had them. But here's the thing: the greatest coaches of all time, John Wooden, needed Tom Osborne. They had assistants that really made a difference. And if you read about what John Wooden had, he was really good, but not great for years. Then he had a new assistant that did two things: up the recruiting and convinced him to do the zone press, things that really made a difference.
Yeah.
Osborne, if you followed him in the last years of his career, there were certain hires, Kevin Steele in particular, really raised him to the next level. And Bob Devaney, if you take away a Mike Corrigan that he had that brought with him and other assistants, Lane Kiffin's dad, for example,
Yeah.
It really made a difference. Rule, these last few games and how Rule has done in big games is extremely depressing, but he's too big to fail. We're paying him too much. He's got to have a great assistance. And did you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, I mean, you look at just about any of these great teams that end up winning a lot of games. Like even look back to the Saban Alabama years, right? Look at how many current head coaches that were on his staff, right? You had Sarkisian, you had Kiffin, you had Kirby Smart, Mario Cristobal on those staffs. Like you're right. Like you need good coaches. Now, I struggle sometimes, Mike, with the whole Matt Rule needs to have great assistant coaches for him to win, only because man, you're paying him a lot of money to then pay a lot of other people a lot of money to fix his flaws. You know what I'm saying? Like when you're paying a guy the amount of money that you're paying Matt Rule, you would hope that, you're paying him based off of his merit to coach himself. And, you don't need all of that. You don't need all of the best coaches in the country to help him beat a ranked team or do things that, other teams with lesser resources can do. I sometimes struggle with that, but I agree that if you're looking at the strengths and weaknesses of Matt Rule as a coach, I would say that his strength is culture and being able to, have a well-run organization. And I wouldn't call it a weakness, but he's definitely not a scheme guru, right? He's not a wizard on the X's and O's like you see, in the NFL with like a McVay and Ben Johnson. So I see where you're coming from, and I don't entirely disagree. I don't know if I love that, but I don't disagree with you.
Well, I don't love it either, because you know how much extra money we're paying.
Yeah, yeah.
The distance he's had, he's fired or reassigned, and then we hire new ones, and we pay the other ones.
And so, yeah, that's a big
for the
problem.
job they're not doing.
Yeah, there's a lot to break down there about the type of coaches that Matt Rule needs and the money. And look, at the end of the day, it's not our money, right? That's budgeted, and they've given him those resources, and it's totally up to him to use those resources to get the best coaches. But, I think that these two hires, if you're just fully basing it off of on paper, it's a good step, right? It's just, there've been a couple of instances that with this program that on paper, things should work and things should be better, and they don't end up being better. And that definitely needs to change. So, Mike, appreciate the call.
One more thing. Hey,
yeah, real quick. Go ahead.
Did you guys read what Amy Just wrote after the Iowa game? I mean, she was furious that when it's obvious that our quarterback can't move and he's not effective, that at least in the third quarter, put in the second quarterback who happened to be player of the year and has a lot of talent. And I totally agree with that. And that's on the coordinator and the head coach. My goodness, you got a guy that's hurt and ineffective making a jump.
Yeah, but I think it's clear that they thought that they were better off with injured TJ Lateef than a ready to go Jalen Gramscott. I mean, they kept him in the game for a reason. So, all right, thanks, Mike. Appreciate your call as always. You are the man. You are the guy. If you want to call in like Mike, 402-951-1620 is the number. Before we head to a break, I want to acknowledge something. A tragic event happened in North Carolina yesterday. Greg Biffle, who is voted as NASCAR's 75 greatest drivers a couple of years ago. He was a 19 race winner in the Cup Series in NASCAR, along with winning some championships in the Truck Series. Him and his wife and his two children tragically passed away yesterday in a plane crash in North Carolina, along with 3 other souls on board that plane. It was a massive loss to the NASCAR and racing community, as Greg Biffle was considered not only one of the better racers in NASCAR history, but also a really good human, especially to the younger generation of drivers. And just seeing the overwhelming outpouring of support from the NASCAR community about just how big of a loss that was to them, and just a tragic event, a plane crash in North Carolina, taking away the Biffle family. So just awful stuff, and just kind of reminds you of no day is promised and anything can happen. And so our thoughts and prayers are obviously with the Biffle family and their friends and their loved ones, and the racing community, which is still struggling today after tragic events in North Carolina. So coming up next, we'll talk about Matt Rule. He speaks later today. And what type of Matt Rule are we going to get? Are we going to get transparent Matt Rule? Are we going to get
his hat be
gritty
correctly?
Matt Rule? Are we going to get funny Matt Rule? Are we going to get backwards hat Matt Rule? Are we going to get Coach Matt? Are we going to get CEO? We'll talk about that coming up next here on 1620. Hell of a song from Chicago's very own Chicago made punk CM Punk, who I would love to tell you right now that they have some like big pay-per-view coming up, or he has some big, well, he has a big match on January 5th against Braun Breaker for the World Heavyweight title. Not that anyone listening to this show gives a rat's ass.
You never know
about it, but cult of personality, CM Punk is. Cult of, would you call, I don't think I'd call Matt Rule a cult of personality, but Matt Rule is something. Got a lot of.
There you go.
He
You
is
just titled
something.
the segment. I love it.
I mean, he's got, I think that we've seen, and everybody kind of displays, I guess maybe multiple personalities at times when they're trying to convey different points. And I think we've seen over the last 3 years.
Shout out multiple personality disorder.
Well, not multiple personalities, but definitely multiple tones, right? And it's one of those things where I'm very curious today when Matt Rule speaks to the media, which I got a email. Let me look at my email here, Jimmy, from one of the best communications guys in all of the land. And by the way, Nebraska is blessed with really good communications people just in general in the state. Rob Anderson over at Creighton has done an awesome, I mean, in the very short time I've been here.
That dude's a damn stud.
He's a stud. Yeah. And by the way,
like if you need a bucket late in the game, you go to Rob.
And he went, what he did after the Xavier game, just dropping all those different stats was absolutely incredible. And hey, you bet your ass we used him on Blue Jay Overtime. So shout out Rob. There's also Jordan Sarnoff for Omaha men's basketball and other sport. I mean, he's just, communications guy for everything in Omaha, but Jordan is absolutely incredible. That guy, Jordan Sarnoff, 15 years, Rutgers athletic director. Okay. Mark it down. Remember the name. Dude's a stud. I think he's also a friend of Sharpie's as well.
Wait, you're giving him the AD job at Rutgers? Nice.
In 15 years. He's from New Jersey. Have you ever met Jordan?
No.
But if you ever do meet him, he is Mr. East Coast. He is Mr. New Jersey. He is like, if you would close your eyes and be like, dream of a dude who's born in New York, New Jersey. Oh, he's everything. The way he talks, the way he is displaced in the Midwest. You talk to him for 2 seconds, you're like, yeah, you weren't born here, bud. We all can tell, but he's a dog. And Keith Mann also,
the
legend, man. A senior associate athletic director and director of communications for Nebraska. So he sent an email. Friday's practice, so today's practice for Nebraska football was actually scheduled to be later. So Coach Rule will speak not at his typical 11:30 a.m. time. He will speak at around 1:15. I don't know if the Connor Apper show is going to be on or is going to broadcast Matt Rule's press conference today. They probably should. It's a big one, I think. I think that, when you walk into certain press conferences that there are ones that don't really matter and what is he really going to say? And then there are ones where you're like, okay, this probably there's some stakes here.
Why is there a smoke machine here?
Because, now we've heard words from Jeep Wade. We've heard words from Rob Orich. We have a little bit of info to move off of that. Matt Rule made comments on Dylan Raiola, and so you know that the media are going to be following up on some of those comments now that Rule, not just from, there's now going to be a forum for really people to ask all of their Dylan questions to the head coach, and so I think that will take up a big portion of the press conference. There'll probably be some follow-ups on, hey, Dannon said this about Dylan. Do you agree with that, or what do you think about his comments? And then
you wish him the worst.
We heard from Steve Sipple. Sip has said that he was going to ask him, do you think this is a full reset on the program, which is going to be a very interesting answer if he ends up asking that question. I'm curious just what type of Matt Rule we get in this press conference today. Because like I said before, there is like the hopeful, kind of more jolly Matt Rule who's hyping up his players.
More sunshine pumping.
Yeah. He was like, man, the D-line is awesome and the running backs are great. And some people have these questions.
Would go over well if he was like
no, I don't think he'll be like that today. Will we get edgy Matt Rule, which is some people's favorite type of Matt Rule, where he's just kind of, I don't want to say he does a good job of not being clearly pissed at the podium, where there were definitely some moments, in my opinion, over the last couple of years with some questions that he could have, I'm not saying gone full bow, but definitely
he
has
shows
been a little
restraint and patience.
Big time. But if you've been around him and you've watched he does there are hours and hours and hours of press conferences for Matt Rule, because it's not just he steps to the podium and talks. He steps to the podium and talks for 40 minutes at times. There are moments where you could tell he's mad. You could tell he's.
I think
he's
people just want
PO'd.
straight shooter.
So that is the one that I'm curious if we get straight shooter Matt Rule today. I'm curious if we get transparent Matt Rule today, because here's why, right? You know, I'm at the point where I'm kind of done buying some of the words. Not all of the words, but I'm kind of done buying some of the words that Matt Rule says to me. And here's what I mean by that.
Don't tell me about the birth, show me the baby. That's an old saying.
When Matt Rule says, you know, TJ Lateef he's going to win a lot of football games at Nebraska. I go, okay, I don't know if I buy that. Because he's, you know, Matt Rule's the same guy that said he put his arm around Quinn Ives, you know, and said, hey, look at this. This is going to be yours one day.
Don't worry,
you know what I'm
son.
saying?
I'm behind you.
You know, he's you know, and Quinnen is one of those guys where they talked about him like he was Herschel Walker. Like he was incredible. And they had a massive opening for Ives to go ahead and be the second running back. And he never took it. And yet you never really heard a ton about Mackay, you know, not nearly as much about Mackay or nearly as much as about Mosey, but you heard a ton about that guy, and he never really performed. What did we hear before Jeff Sims took the field in 2023 for the Nebraska Cornhuskers? We heard, man, he's an NFL prospect. Man, I got scouts calling me. I got them telling me that, man, this dude could be legit. You know, all we heard was, man, Jeff has taken massive strides. Marcus Satterfield, is working with him, and he's playing some great football.
We're going to be the greatest show on turf.
Didn't end up.
We're going to make the air raid look
right. Yeah. And then in the Big Ten media day, what happened there? Well, everybody's talking. You know, our defensive line is going to be hell on wheels. You know, and then he said at a press conference, like everybody's talking about
beers and the 2000 Ravens had a baby. That's our defense.
I know. And once again, just things didn't live up to the billing. And so I think that now people are kind of catching on to that. It's almost as if, and I asked this question to Brian Scoffers and Jimmy, I was like, hey, you know, when Matt Rule now starts like complimenting a player, is that almost like a fade?
Kiss of death.
Yeah. Is that like you should probably fade him here? And probably shouldn't go all. I mean, who's a big story that we heard about in the offseason? Man, this guy's playing great. Man, this guy's awesome. This guy is man, he's blown us away. Jacob Bauer. Okay. No offense, Jacob Bauer. Saw him with special teams, but it's not like he did a whole lot. I mean, he didn't really start, didn't really play a whole lot. I mean, it's one of those things where I think people are catching on to it, and people kind of realize that people are
tired.
Yeah, because we did
season.
The song and dance, Jimmy, of a lot of times that he would come up and say, man, this guy's playing great football, and this guy he's awesome. And then all of a sudden just, man, you know, it didn't really pan out. But, you know, when it comes to the quarterback situation, right, I think he can be truthful and transparent now because eventually he's going to be. What I mean by that is this. Like, you can tell me, man, TJ's awesome. TJ's great. TJ's got a lot of talent. TJ's going to win a lot of football games at the University of Nebraska. And TJ, you know, he doesn't blame others and this, that, and the other. But if you go ahead and you acquire a guy like Brennan Sorsby, you acquire a guy like Sam Levitt, you acquire a guy like Josh Hoover, you acquire a guy like Bo Pribula, you acquire a guy who has more experience at the quarterback position, has performed at a higher level than TJ Lateef, right? You've communicated, hey, you know, this is what we're going with. And maybe TJ is going to win a lot of games one day for Nebraska, but it's down the line, right? I think if somebody asked Matt Rule, and somebody probably should ask Matt Rule today, hey, what's the archetype of quarterback that you want? What's the kind of quarterback that you want? Do you want a mobile quarterback? Do you want a pocket passing quarterback? What are the characteristics that you want from your QB? Do you want a guy? I mean, I would love today if somebody asked Matt Rule, how many years do you want your quarterback? You know, if you're going to acquire a quarterback in the portal, how many years of eligibility would you like? Would you like 1? Would you like 2 years? Do you want a guy who's going to be a quick fix? What's your plan? Because Matt Rule,
is there a plan?
Is there a plan of attack? What do you prefer? And Matt Rule can be. I mean, it's not like you're showing your cards or anything. There's no secrecy about this crap, right? It's still recruiting. It's still numbers. It's still right? You're regardless of who you tell who you're interested in, you're still going to be competing against other schools because, there are plenty of schools that need quarterbacks. And, it's not like there is an abundance of, QBs who have had high level experience that can come in and be winners right away. And so I would love it today if Matt Rule just kind of came out and said, hey, we're looking for a quarterback who's mobile in the pocket, who started multiple years at a Power 5 conference, who has this amount of eligibility left, right? Or something to that extent. Because I do think that it would be, and I'm not saying that he needs to garner favor with the fans. I'm not saying that he needs to get people back on track. I'm not saying that he needs people.
Does.
But there are way more people who are now questioning whether or not this is heading in the right direction. And I think that if there's anything that fans hate in media is coach speak and cliches, right? And
you should play one play at a time, one game at a time, one series at a time.
Yeah, you don't like that. No, Matt. I mean, just go ahead and say, hey, we're going to lay our chips on the table. We have this amount of money. We need to go and address this position. This is what we're looking for. And I think that would go a long way for him. And also, too, I'm sick and tired of guessing, frankly, of who they're going to go ahead and what they're looking for. I'm sick of guessing of what the plan looks like and what, I mean, I think he owes it, and he also owes it to TJ to be transparent in what they're trying to do.
What is the damn identity of the program?
So that is another thing too, Jimmy, where that has always boggled me that 3 years down the line.
Back in the day, the identity was line up and kick your ass. They did. Both sides of the ball. All three phases.
Let's be real here. In his opening press conference, he came out and said, I'm going to build this team through the trenches.
Okay, that's good.
All right.
Good. Nebraska should.
He came out and said in his first year, I'm going to run the ball 75 yards a game in the fourth quarter. He came out here and said, well, we got to go ahead and we got to be physical. We got to
build
dominant.
The trenches. You can do all those things.
And up to this point, and also too, he preached player development. We're going to develop players. We're going to build through the trenches. We're going to be physical. We're going to run the football. 3 years down the line, how many of those things has he done? Has he built the trenches? No, he hasn't. Don't get me started. Don't get me started with Rocco Spindler and him being an honorable mention, which I love Rocco. Number 50 was awesome this year. Justin Evans, yes, great development story, but they have had.
But you need 5 Roccos.
There have been way more times, way more games where the offensive line has been an issue and the reason why you lost, as opposed to them being the sole reason as to why you won. So
they gave up 9 sacks in a game. If they passed back in the day, they wouldn't give up 9 sacks in the season.
And here's so they haven't built the offensive line the way that you wanted them to build the offensive line. Let's look at the D line, right? Because this is an interesting combo. Because you could say, hey, yeah, what do you mean? What do you mean, man? Yeah, they were awesome on the defensive line the last 2 seasons. Year 1 and year 2, the defensive line were the best things that Nebraska had going for them. But once again, it's about we're gonna build the team through the trenches and we're gonna develop players. Nash Hutmaker and Ty Robinson, they were
there already.
They were there. They weren't recruited by Matt Rule. They weren't necessarily his guys. He inherited 2 very talented defensive players. And I give him and I give Terrence Knighton credit for developing Nash Hutmaker and Ty Robinson into guys that, Hutmaker ended up signing a undrafted free agency deal, and Ty Robinson ended up getting drafted in the 3rd round. They were not heading in that direction before they got there. So credit to T. Knight, who developed those guys and got them going. But now T. Knight is gone, right? And those guys leave, and you have a group of dudes who you brought in, your guys. You've picked, to have these individuals on your defensive line, to recruit these guys in the trenches. And you had ample time to develop them, to make them better, to improve them, right? Riley Van Poppel, Cam Lenhart, been in the program 3 years,
like
3 years at this point, right? I mean, Van Poppel came in year 1. So did Cam Lenhart, came in year 1. Lenhart went through some injury stuff and played sparingly last year. They used RVP's red shirt last season. They did not take the steps that you needed them to take last season, okay? Now, Keona Davis has developed, but Keona Davis is fine, right? Keona Davis saying, like, this is part of, too, like, when we get into the drinking the Kool-Aid, conversations, right? It's when we start overestimating like how really good players are. And Keona Davis is fine. He's okay, but he's not great. right? And he's not an all Big Ten level guy. He's not a game wrecker. He'll give you a couple of plays and he does important things, but he needs to get better as well. And so, they went ahead of the transfer portal and they got Jalen George. He wasn't really a factor, right? He didn't really do a whole lot for him. So it's just one of those things, Jimmy, where he preached heading into his tenure at Nebraska. We are going to do these things. And for the most part, with the guys that he brought in, with the dudes that he recruited, with the players that he specifically picked to be in this program, he has not accomplished those things, right? They are not a physical football team. They are not.
No.
They are not dominant on the offensive line. They are way less than adequate on the defensive line. And this is not a thing where if this was year one, Jimmy, if this was year two, Jimmy, maybe I'd pull back. Maybe I'd say, you know what, the program.
They won 7 games year one. Yeah, it's a start.
No. This is year 3. This has been your program.
I thought this was the year they're supposed to take that jump. That's what they all told
You've had ample opportunity to put your footprints and thumbprint on the program. And frankly, some of the promises in terms of the identity of this team have not been kept. And that is another issue too, Jimmy. There's no identity. There's nothing you can really look and say, hey, we're gonna hang our hat on. And by the way, if you're saying that you're gonna hang your hat on Emmett Johnson specifically as a football player, that's not an identity. That's just being so grateful that you have an incredible player like him and just saying, all right, do it. We don't have really a whole lot else to do other than we got to give you the ball. We got to hope that you make a play, right? And I give the O-line a little bit of credit, man. They went through it, and a lot of people talked crap about them, and honestly, rightfully so. They gave up way too many sacks, and they played better at the end of the year, right? But it especially in the run game. At the same time, though, why is it with Nebraska football, and it hasn't just been under Donovan Raiola, it's been under Matt Rule, that the offensive line isn't good out of the box. The offensive line struggles out of the box. They had to put in 3 different tackles against Cincinnati, okay? They gave up way too many sacks against Michigan. They gave up 9 sacks against Minnesota, right? I understand that the O-line played well at the end of the year. Too little, too late, okay? Like 3 straight years, and I know it was Donovan Raiola's offensive line group, but it was also Matt Rule's team where the offensive line, and he is a trenches guy, quote unquote, did not play well to begin the year. That can't happen again. And so it's just, I think what it always boils back to for me with Matt Rule is, I think that there are just some things now that he says that he used to say that I would buy into, that I would say, oh, wow, okay, we got to look out for this guy.
But now you roll your eyes.
Now I don't roll my eyes, but I take it with a grain of salt. Some things. There are other things that Matt Rule, you read through the tea leaves and you read between the lines, you can tell, hey, he's trying to communicate.
That's different.
To you.
That's a different thing. That's any coach.
That's different. But there are some things now that after 3 years I used to buy into that I no longer do, because it has not produced the results that you thought it would. And it has not produced the results that his words are conveying that they would. And it just, frankly, Matt Rule has not produced the results.
Well, the simple question is, do you believe the program is getting better?
Yes. But I don't, but that was at me at times gave me a bit of like a cop out because, there would be some not so great moments and Matt Rule would be like, hey, we're 6-3 in November. When was the last time that happened? No, man.
Don't tell me that.
Whoa. I still can question some of the things that are going on in this program.
How did you look getting to 6-3?
Exactly. I can question some things about this program, regardless of what your current record is compared to what it used to be before you got here. Okay. Now, you're right, Jimmy, in the regard that we have to give them some credit. You have to give Matt Rule a little bit of credit. Not a little bit. You got to give him credit of, hey, when he got here, the program was not in good shape at all.
No.
They had to strip it down to the studs, to the last inch. And they have done a valiant and hardworking job of doing that. But at the same time, there have been some missteps and, frankly, issues that should no longer be issues in year 3 of his tenure. Why is there an identity problem with Nebraska football 3 years in?
There's your question.
There is no plausible explanation.
Which goes back to the original. What's their identity?
There's no plausible explanation as to why that should be a problem. There is no plausible explanation for a guy who has preached physicality and toughness at his podium for his team's physicality and toughness to be questioned week in and week out when they go and play actual physical tough teams. Okay. There are just answers like there's no explanation as to why a guy who said, hey, we're going to build the trenches is struggling to build the trenches in his third year as being the head coach of Nebraska. There are some things that we're at the point where there's no explanation. Explain to me why in year 3 of Matt Rule, where we have talked about the culture being so good and Matt Rule's a culture builder and all of these different adjectives, why was there apparently a energy problem with this team this season? There was an energy problem? That's bare minimum, guys.
How does that happen?
That's bare minimum. How are we saying we didn't, Riley Van Poppel, man, we didn't have enough energy against it's Iowa. It's your rival. It's senior day rather. You're at home. You win this game. It's a program defining win at this point in the Matt Rule tenure. And you didn't think you had enough energy? I don't know. There are some things that I still believe in with Matt Rule. But I think this 7-5 season kind of proved to you that there are some things that we used to believe in that you have to question. But yet, to give him credit, because this is what we do with the 7-5 football team. There are two sides to the sword. There's the side of the sword of me saying, why the hell is there a physicality problem? Why is there a trenches problem? Why is there an energy problem? And the other side of the sword is, well, you know what? I give you credit for looking at your problems, for getting rid of those problems, for addressing, hey, there are some things that used to be worth it that are no longer worth it. I give you credit for addressing those things and saying, we're getting rid of them regardless of what some people might think.
We're not going to go down without a fight.
And I give him credit for then surveying the entirety of the country and saying, all right, Rob Orch, you turned around defense. I need my defense turned around. I'm going to hire you. Hey, Jeep Wade, you have produced top-level ACC offensive linemen over the last couple of years. We're going to go ahead and we're going to hire you to bring on your team. Hey, Elijah Robinson, you are one of the best D-line coaches in the country. We know that LSU is bidding for you. We know that Syracuse is bidding for you. We know that Penn State's bidding for you. We know that Texas A&M is bidding for you. We're going to try. We're going to go and we're going to aggressively try and acquire you. And maybe they will and maybe they won't. But I give him credit for acknowledging the problems, and I give him credit for addressing those problems, and I give him credit for trying to get things back on track. And I also give him credit that you're right, Jimmy. You can't deny that after 3 years, the program is in a better spot now than it was a couple of years ago. At the same time, we talked about, was the juice worth the squeeze in terms of
great movie
of Dylan Raiola? I'll ask you this. For how much squeezing Nebraska football has done over the last 3 years, is there enough juice coming out of that? Has there been enough results for everything that has been poured into the pro? Has there been enough results for what has been squeezed out of this program, for what has been invested in this program?
They give you the little cup in the hospital to take your pills in. It better be that size.
But that's the question. I mean, for how much they've poured into this program in terms of players, in terms of coaches, in terms of facilities, in terms of nutrition,
I just come away
in terms of the schedule that they've gotten.
Why do they make football so hard? They make football look so hard. Why? That's the question.
Good question.
Is it that hard to be better and win? I don't know.
And I think today at Matt Rule's press conference, we're not going to get answers to those questions, but it'll be interesting to see.
It's a hell of a tease.
We're not going to get answers to those questions.
I mean, you're right.
But it'll be interesting to see,
words will be said.
Does the tone change? Because after going 7-5, with the schedule that they had, an incredibly manageable schedule that any team would dream of having in a college football playoff era, after going 7-5 with that schedule, the secret is now out. Okay, the secret is out. Things weren't going as well in that building as we thought they were. Plain and simple. Do you know why I know that? I'm looking at a board right next to me that has 8-4, 8-4, 9-3, 8-4, 8-4, 9-3, 10-2, 8-4, 8-4.
A lot of people are wrong. Except Josh.
Okay. Those are all those. I'm looking at a board with all of these people who we trust, who we know a ton about this program, who follow this program incessantly. And they all thought that those were going to be the records of Nebraska football this season.
Josh and Nick were the only ones who had it.
Well,
Nick
it's not
was one game down.
Well, it's not even about that. When I'm trying to communicate.
I see like 8-4, 9-3.
What I'm trying to communicate to you is that we clearly thought that things were going way better within that building than what they were. And this season revealed secrets out. It's not. They went 7 and
10
5.
and 2.
They had some problems going on. Now that the secret's out, now that people know that, how does Matt Rule respond to that? He's responded to it by hiring some high-level coaches. Does he respond to that, though, in different communication? Is he more transparent? Is he less hype about players that maybe he knows probably aren't going to achieve that success? And I'm just very curious today how he goes ahead and how he talks about his quarterback situation. Because
what time is this show at?
What do you mean?
Matt Rule. What time is this at today?
It'll be after 105.
Ooh.
Be one of those
Baseball.
things. Be one of those things, Jimmy, where it'll be very revealing. And there's this kind of part of me that just hopes it goes ahead and says, "Hey, we want a 2-year quarterback who's more mobile in the pocket, and we think that this is how we're going to address it." Because there's already been some cloak and dagger stuff about what's going on, and it would just be, I think, in a way, a little bit. And he's been transparent a ton, but in particular with this situation, how would we feel if Matt Rule goes from 1 week saying, "Man, TJ is going to be amazing, and TJ is going to be incredible, and TJ is going to win a lot of games for Nebraska football," and then gets a guy that clearly probably will stop TJ from playing football. Might end up stopping TJ from playing football. So I think transparency on the quarterback, because he'll be asked about that. It'll be interesting to see how he answers those questions today. Alrighty. We have Brett Ciazia coming up here in a little bit, talking about the college football playoff, along with Lee Sterling giving you his picks for the weekend and what will be a loaded NFL slate and a loaded CFP slate. Don't go anywhere. You listen to Gary Mann on 1620 The Zone. A joke of an event is going on tonight, Jimmy.
I mean, Alabama, Oklahoma is still a decent
No,
game. You
I'm
got
not
elephants.
talking
You got the
about
soon.
Alabama,
Oh.
Oklahoma. That is an event between two very well-respected programs, two historic programs. You know that Oklahoma's trying to become the first team to beat Alabama twice in a season since 1893.
Oh, I bet Feinbaum was off the hook. That
Can you
telegram.
Can you believe that? Isn't that a crazy ass story? They have not. Alabama's has not been beaten twice in one season in over 132 years, which is absolutely wild. No, I am talking about, and some people are going to roll your eyes at this, but Jake Paul is fighting tonight.
Whoa.
He's boxing tonight. I feel like less people. I don't know how many people really know about this.
At this point, I'd rather watch Chris Paul fight.
I don't know. Like Jake Paul actually, like 5 years ago, was a pretty big draw, and then he kind of took a bit of a hit, and then he fought Mike Tyson, and that was a big deal. And then we realized why we don't watch Jake Paul fight anymore. But now he's back in on it. He's fighting on Netflix tonight. His the main card begins at 7:00 Central Standard Time. He is fighting Anthony Joshua. Just for a little like clarification here, Anthony Joshua at one point was like the heavyweight champion of the world. Okay, he currently is the #1 ranked heavyweight in the world. Like Anthony Joshua is a Hall of Fame boxer. Okay,
wow.
Anthony Joshua has been in massive fights, and at one point before he lost to Andy Ruiz, which was one of the bigger upsets in boxing history, he was like a superstar. He was a megastar. He was a massive deal. Now, granted, Joshua definitely isn't like the marquee guy he used to be, but he's still very much like, we were making a heavyweight boxing Hall of Fame. Anthony Joshua would be in that. Okay. He is definitely in terms of my generation of heavyweights, one of the most recognizable and one of the better ones. And, he's beaten guys. He lost Usyk twice, but I mean, he won his belt back against Andy Ruiz, and, he's beaten Jermaine Franklin Jr. and he's beaten Hellenius and he's beaten Ottawa. Like he's beaten some high quality boxers, and he isn't. I wouldn't call him a GOAT because he's lost to the highest quality boxers he's fought in Dubois and Alexander Usyk. He's lost to, but all this to say, he's a guy. He's a dude. He is a dangerous human. Okay, he is 6'6", 244 pounds. Tonight, he is going to fight not professional boxer, not grown up in, well, I guess Jake Paul is a pro boxer, but not like thoroughbred, grown up in the business.
He's not
boxer.
Fighting Tyson.
He's not. No, he's fighting a YouTuber turned boxer. Okay. He's fighting a guy who's 6'1", 217 pounds.
Hope he pummels the crap out of him. I'll be watching football.
The fact that this is going on, the fact that this is happening proves to you more that this is, boxing has become a joke of a sport. And it's absolutely just heartbreaking to watch, to find out the fact that these gimmicky fights are the ones that end up selling, are the ones that people are actually interested in. And the fact that this is being allowed to happen, and by the way, Jake Paul's not a heavyweight. Jake Paul is a cruiserweight. So the fact that Jake Paul is fighting a guy who is way out of his weight class, who is way better than him, who is one of the better heavyweights of a generation, the fact that he is fighting the #1 ranked heavyweight in the world, is crazy to me. And I hate to be that guy, but like, boxing ain't for the faint of heart. Some bad things happen in boxing. Okay.
Yeah, I saw Creed get killed by Drago.
Some terrible, terrible things happen in boxing. And it's not just like, I'm not going to be like, oh, people die, but people do die in boxing. But people also don't just die in boxing.
Best friend gets revenge in Russia.
But Jimmy, people get seriously hurt in the ring as well. I mean, there are plenty of stories of guys never being the same after fights.
Seen Rocky too.
And it's just one of those things where I really hope that Jake Paul, more than anything, walks out of this okay, because just on paper, he is way out of his depth here, fighting a guy who is 5 inches taller than him, 30 pounds heavier, and has fought in some of the most dangerous men on the planet for a living, for his entire career. So Jake Paul's fighting tonight. I don't know if I'll be watching. It's going to be a tough watch for people who actually like boxing, people who actually know the dangers of the sport, and who respect the sport. I don't know how many of those people will actually be tuned in. But the guys who like, the kids who love 6-7 and TikToks and Vines and all that stuff, they'll be the one that are watching that. So coming up next, Brett Cianci will be talking about something we definitely will all be watching very intently, college football, here on 1620. Football playoffs are here. One of the best times of the year. I think we're have like 27, 28 straight days of football between college football and the NFL. It's absolutely incredible. If you're a ball lover, we bring in one of the biggest ball lovers I know from Pick Six Previews. It's Mr. Brett Cianci, the man, the myth, the legend. Brett, how was your vacation?
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me back. Yeah, it was a great vacation. Got right back in time for playoff season, so I can't wait to break it down with you. But Yeah, you got that ABC music. You got me all fired up like
Hell
it's the
yes.
old days again.
I
And
miss it.
it's elimination football. Yeah.
It is elimination football indeed. Before we get into the actual games, I got to ask you real quick. The quarterback transfer portal, man. Whoa. It's been crazy seeing a bunch of different guys enter from across the country, one of them being obviously Dylan Raiola from Nebraska. I want to ask you, Brett, is this the new norm? Like I feel like last year there were only a couple of guys who were, really in the portal. There weren't as many big names. Now, granted, one of those names in the portal ended up being the Heisman Trophy winner in Fernando Mendoza. But from the here on out, is what we're kind of going to expect? A lot of name brand guys like Raiola, like Lagway, like Prabula. If you're a really big Big 12 football fan, right? Josh Hoover and Brennan Sorsby, those are big names to look for. Is this the new normal in college football for you?
I think so, and it's been a couple years of this now. And when you look back at last year's transfer cycle, a lot of those guys are now leading playoff teams. I mean, Carson Beck was a shocking transfer. He's going up in the first round. Yeah, I mean, it's all over the place. I mean, Oregon's starting quarterback was a former transfer. Mendoza, the Heisman winner, is a transfer. So, yeah, it's just a part of the game now. You look at this class so far, it's so many names. Of course, Raiola is the local headliner. I was shocked to see that one. But from there, you got Brennan Sorsby, Cincinnati, Sam Levitt. Don't forget about him from Arizona State.
Good
DJ Lagway, former 5-star. They're everywhere. I mean, it's just a part of the game now.
All right, let's get into the games this weekend. Let's begin with what I think is going to be the best one, and that is tonight. Oklahoma plays Alabama. Last time these two teams played, Oklahoma ended up beating the Crimson Tide. 23-21 was the score. But if you watched that game, and I know you did, Brett, Alabama dominated that game. They outgained Oklahoma by I think nearly I think a little bit over 200 yards. They had 25 more plays from scrimmage than Oklahoma, but what it boiled down to was you could start calling him an enigma, right? In Ty Simpson, just unable to kind of hold on to that football. Oklahoma caused a lot of turnovers, 3 turnovers, in fact, that caused them to win that football game. How do you think it turns out tonight, Mr. Brett Ciancio?
Yeah, you're right about that first matchup. And I talk a lot about my game grader formula, a way to evaluate the games beyond just the final score. And, most of the time the winning team has the higher grade. That makes sense. But it's a very rare case where the losing team has the higher grade. That happened in this one. I mean, Bama graded out better than Oklahoma despite the loss. It was a 2-point loss on the scoreboard, but like you said, outgained by 200 yards. They really moved the ball well against an elite Oklahoma defense, went over 400 yards. It was just a lot of mistakes. A missed short field goal at the end, a 90-yard pick six allowed. So I think they're going to come out better this time. I think the better team will win with Alabama, the more well-rounded team. Oklahoma's offense doesn't get enough attention because we all talk about the defense, which is really special, but that offense struggles. And we look at John Mateer against Power 4 teams. He's only 8 touchdowns, 8 picks, and that's second worst in the SEC in quarterback rating. So they're going to struggle to move the ball, Oklahoma. You saw that in their last couple games. I'm going to go Bama here on the road in the revenge spot. I think Bama's going to win it.
All right, let's go to our next game here. The only other Power 5 versus Power 5, or Power 4, rather. I always make that mistake, Brett. Power 4 versus Power 4 matchup here. Miami takes on Texas A&M. It's an interesting matchup, Brett, because, you know what? I think about 4 weeks ago, you could have put Texas A&M in kind of that pot of Texas Tech, Indiana, Ohio State, and Georgia as teams who can win the national championship, but they've firmly fallen out of that. I think you kind of saw the tea leaves against South Carolina, and then they go ahead and they lose to a Texas team that didn't even make the playoff. And then look at Miami, right? I mean, that was a team at the beginning of the year, especially after they beat Notre Dame, where you're thinking, man, this offensive line is awesome. Ruben Bain is one of the best defensive players in the country, but they lose to an unranked SMU team. And then we saw the worst of Carson Beck against Louisville. And so they kind of showed you, hey, there's a lot of good here, but there could be some bad as well. How do you look at this matchup between the Aggies and the Hurricanes?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing that jumps out to me is the lines of scrimmage for both sides. They're both elite. You look at the offensive line for Miami with Francis Mauigoa, the big offensive tackle, protecting Carson Beck, going up against Cassius Howe, an All-American on A&M's front defensive line. And then the converse is true also. I mean, A&M's big offensive line, the Maroon Goons, they call themselves, with Trey Zune, an All-American, going up against Bain and Moten and Mesidor, all those great pass rushers from Miami. So lines of scrimmage are fascinating for me. Quarterback play also will be interesting and probably the deciding factor. We've seen them both have interception fests. You talked about Beck's against Louisville and Reed's against Texas. For For the most part, though, Beck has him beat on some of the categories I look at: quarterback rating, yards per attempt. So a slight edge there. I like Malachi Toney, their big, their elusive wide receiver from Miami, a true freshman, unbelievable player.
Yeah.
But so yeah, here's the thing: I'm going to go with Miami to go into College Station. It's an 11 a.m. kick. It's not going to be as crazy of a home field advantage as if that were the Friday night game. So I'm going to go Miami to go in there, win it outright. I think this is a really strong team. And for the Pick Six Plus subscribers out there, they have been on this since day one. I've had Miami in my playoff projection every single week since August. So I hope that you cashed in some of those 10-1 tickets a couple weeks back. I know I sure did. Them making the playoff bracket.
Is Brett Ciancia's game grader awesome, or did he have a mole within the college football playoff committee? I think a lot of people are talking about that. I'm kidding, of course. You're great.
Yeah, well, hey,
it's one of the best, man.
Thank you. Well, they did the right thing, I think, with Miami and Notre Dame, and it's really a shame though because I think Notre Dame is one of the best teams in the country.
I agree,
and I think the bigger problem I think is that you have two G5s clogging up the bracket. And hey, I love the underdog. I think if it's truly a special G5 season, like some of these undefeated Boise State teams, or like the Colt Brennan Hawaii team, or the old TCU teams, of course. But these two, and to have multiple of these resumes do not belong in the playoff bracket this year. So it's a shame for Notre Dame. I think they could have won the national title, but
I agree.
They lost. They lost when it mattered against Miami.
Big time. And another thing, Brett, is that like there are probably 4 teams that are viable to win the college football playoff. But if you had to make me pick a 5th team, I would pick Notre Dame. They're not in the playoff, and I agree with you. I'm in favor of having one G5 team in the playoff, not 2. Can't have 2. I mean, it's unacceptable. Let's just quickly let's package them together. James Madison plays Oregon. Ole Miss plays Tulane. I don't know if you have to say too much about the James Madison Oregon game. I think it goes without saying that probably is going to be a blowout. So I'll spare you that. But this is an interesting one. Tulane, the last time they played against North Texas, they look good, man. Jake Retzloff, goes from BYU to Tulane, leads them to an 11-2 season. They take out an Ole Miss team where they've been all over the headlines and not for the best reasons. Does Ole Miss, does not having Lane Kiffin, how big of a factor is that in this game? Can Tulane be the first team in the CFP era to pull off this G5 upset?
Yeah, I just don't see it, to be honest. I think just the raw firepower of talent from Ole Miss, the home field advantage, they already beat them 45-10 earlier this year. So adding insult to injury, we're stuck with 2 G5s. One of them's a rematch from a snoozer in September. It's unbelievable.
It's crazy.
So, I think you'll see another blowout, not quite 45-10, but multiple scores, 17, 20, 24-point win. I think they're going to rally around Pete Golding. I think they're going to rally around their interim. They've had plenty of time to prepare for this. This isn't a midweek firing or a midweek, where they're scrambling in 2 days to get a game plan together. They've had several weeks to prepare. I think they're going to come out well. So give me Ole Miss big at home. I will say it's a shame, though. It could have been the biggest event in the state of Mississippi sporting-wise in a century had they brought in somebody like a Notre Dame or a Texas or a real playoff team, but instead they get a Tulane rematch. I think I see a blowout there and a big blowout over in Oregon too. I think points. The only drama in that one is whether when Oregon pulls their starters out in the fourth quarter, will there be a backdoor cover opportunity for JMU?
Ooh,
I think it's going to be a blowout.
Okay. All right. Brett Ciancia of Pick Six Previews and of Pick Six Plus. You've been killing it all year, my friend. We will see you. We'll be on the holiday break, but we'll get you before the national championship to break that down. And I think we'll have some transfer portal news at that point, too, to talk about you with. So thank you so much, Brett. As always, we'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Merry Christmas to all the listeners. It's been a great season together.
Merry Christmas to you as well, my friend. And we go the best back-to-back segment in all of Nebraska sports radio. We go from Brett Ciancia over to our money-making man, Lee Sterling. Lee, how are you, my friend?
I'm great. Looking forward to next week, maybe playing some golf in the morning. And watching and betting some sports early afternoon. So want to, before we get started, wish both you guys and your staff happy, healthy, and a safe holiday. So looking forward to spending some time. My daughter's in the air right now, coming down to Miami. So she booked a show, a musical that starting outside of Philadelphia, and looks like will transfer off Broadway or Broadway. So she's the understudy to the lead. So
that's awesome.
Have more about that. Yeah, tell you about the name and everything when we reconvene the Friday before the Super Bowl.
Okay, I'm big into musicals, Lee. I'm big into plays, so that'd actually be very interesting to hear about that. But let's get into business here. It's going to be an awesome couple of weeks of football coming up here. bowl games, NFL games, high stakes, playoff things. You know the drill. Let's start it here. A very sneaky good bowl game, right? Like it's one of those things where if this was the old, college football, this would be a really, really big game between these two teams. But because it's not the playoff, it's not as much stakes. Vanderbilt takes on Iowa. I think this Iowa team is way better than their 8-4 record. They take on Vanderbilt, who's been one of the biggest scorers in college football. -5.5-point favorites are the Commodores.
I would agree with you 100%. I think it's a bad matchup for Vanderbilt. Diego Pavia, he loves to freewheel. And what does Iowa do? Their defensive linemen stay in their rush lanes, and they want to make you drive 10, 14, 15-play drives. And I don't know if Diego Pavia has, the patience to chip away at this defense like that. And they just try to keep everything in front of them. So, also, I think the Iowa offensive line is probably going to control the Vandy defense, which doesn't have a whole lot of depth here. And when you bet these bowl games, if you bet an underdog, bet a quarter to a third of your wager on the money line. Ooh. We will see a ton of plus 7, 10, 12, 13, 14-point underdogs win outright, can pay big dividends. I think the wrong team's favorite. I like Iowa straight up here, 28-20.
Wow. Nice stuff there. I agree with you. I don't know. I think Vanderbilt this whole year has been a bit of a paper tiger, and they've been fortunate with some injuries they have mid-game. All right, let's talk about Nebraska's bowl game. -16.5-point underdogs are the Cornhuskers. I think it is the largest Power 4 spread out of any bowl game this season. Utah, dominant offensive line, really good run game, kind of plays into the weaknesses in Nebraska. How do you see it, Lee?
It does, and I think they're throwing in a couple extra points because of Kyle Whittingham's retiring. So I think that plays into it. But I think Utah's good, but I think along the line of scrimmage, I don't think they have a big advantage here. Maybe Nebraska, pulls out a few trick plays here, and I think their defense is going to hold up okay. So I think 16.5 just a little bit too much. I think Utah wins 31-13, but Nebraska covers.
Okay, that's I think that some people would probably take that, and I know Husker Nation would not be happy with a 16.5-point plus defeat to Utah. Let's go to your first college football playoff game on the slate here, Oregon versus James Madison. It's kind of a shame that we have to have these, already predetermined matchups in the playoffs. But hey, JMU's had a good season, but Oregon seems like they're clicking at the right time, Lee.
They are, but I don't think we're going to see 4 double-digit favorites. Blowouts like we saw in the first round last year. And I think James Madison's a little underrated here. So the Dukes have the number 2 rushing defense in the country. They're 3rd in yards per play against. Oregon generally wins on the ground as their passing game solidly in the top 50, but far from elite, in my opinion. Remember, they lost a lot of guys before the season here.
Sure.
So everyone thinks, James Madison is going to go cross country and lay down. What did they do against Louisville? They not only won the game, they ran the ball 47 times. They controlled the clock for almost 38 of the 60 minutes. And I think they're coming to play here. I think Oregon's going to win the game 34-20, but I think JMU is going to cover.
All right, we got the Notre Dame Bowl. Your Miami Hurricanes take on the Texas A&M Aggies. It's one of those things, Lee, where I think about 8 weeks ago, if you told me that A&M Miami would have been a national championship bout, I wouldn't have blinked an eye, honestly. I would have said, okay, that makes sense. That Marcel Reed and Carson Beck, they probably were in New York for the Heisman. That did not end up being the case, but still, 2 great rosters, 2 really well-coached teams find their way in the playoff. 3.5-point favorite are Texas A&M.
Yeah, and give Texas A&M credit. They are a really solid team. They have no real weakness, but Miami probably the same. I thought that A&M should have been seeded 6, where Ole Miss is, and played the Tulane team, but not the case here. And maybe the early start, 11 a.m. Central Time, helps Miami. First time they played, 2022, when Mario was, I think, in his 2nd or 3rd game in his first year. They went to A&M. The quarterback, you ready for this, was Tyler Van Dyke.
Wow.
And how bad did things go that day? I was there. They had tons of illegal motion. They had quite a few delay of game penalties.
Yeah.
They lost the turnover battle and still only lost by 6 points. Now, both teams are better, but A&M, let's look at their competition. Before Texas in the SEC, their schedule, SEC opponents had a combined 11-40 record here.
Wow.
Carson Beck is not going to be intimidated here. He's played at Tennessee and won, played at Texas and won. He's won a national title here. I think this is what Miami's been peaking for. They're a dangerous team here. On top of that, I think the blueprint's out there. How to stop Marcel Reed, keep him in the pocket here. Right team favorite.
Wow.
I like Miami 24-23 over Texas A&M. Might have a rematch.
Sure.
New Year's Eve, Miami and Ohio State of the 2002 national championship.
That's a great little nugget there. Tyler Van Dyke ended up transferring to Wisconsin, and then he got injured. So
then went to SMU. The backup at SMU now.
Good point. Alabama, here's another rematch here. Alabama, Oklahoma. Alabama lost this game earlier in the year, 23-21, but man, they outplayed Oklahoma that entire game, but turnovers came to bite them back in the butt. 200 more yards, 25 more plays than the Sooners, but end up losing that game. They're a 1-point favorite in this one, Lee.
And it could be tough here because now they got to travel on the road.
Yeah.
I just saw a video of the tailgates that are taking place. That place is going to be nuts tonight. Offensive line for Alabama allowed 10 sacks in the last 3 games. They'll get a couple guys back, but they haven't been the same. They got pounded by Georgia. I think they've lost their mojo. So you got Oklahoma at home, better defense, and certainly the better special teams. Alabama's only made half their field goals over the last 4 weeks, and Tate Sandell, the kicker from OU, he's deadly within 65 yards here. The right team is favored. Oklahoma 24-20.
All right, Lee, your game of the week. I mean, a premier matchup in the NFL. The AFC's best team, arguably, probably not arguably, probably just outrightly so. The Denver Broncos take on one of the AFC's hottest teams in the Jacksonville Jaguars. That defense is rolling, and Trevor Lawrence finally finding a stride. Broncos are a 3-point favorite. Lee, how can people get your pick for this game?
First 5 callers will call 800-400-9741. We'll give them the game for free. 800-400-9741. You want to get that huge Broncos and Jags game on me. And we're rolling. Check out all the specials, ParamountSports.com.
Lee, you are the best. Thank you so much for talking to us all year long. We'll get you a couple more times. Talk to you soon, my friend.
Sounds good. Take care, guys.
See you, Lee. It's car wash season, Jimmy. People are out there getting their car wash. We're about to do a car wash in the show. Don't go anywhere. 1620 The Zone. Gary and Matt. Next side of this break, we're going to have some fun. Rascal Flats is bringing their Life is a Highway tour to Omaha, featuring special guests Lauren Elena and Chris Lane, Saturday, January 24th at the CHI Health Center in Omaha. Listen all week to Unsportsmanlike Conduct for a chance to win your way to the show. We actually also, too, have some tickets to give away on Gary and Matt today. Stay tuned. At 9:40 today, we are going to be giving away pairs of tickets to Creighton basketball. We're going to be giving away tickets to tomorrow's game against Marquette. That, I believe, the game's at 7:30. And then we also be giving away tickets to the 22nd is a Tuesday, Jimmy. So we'll be giving away tickets to Tuesday's game against Utah Tech. 9:40 a.m.
Most hated right
here on the show. We will be giving away Creighton basketball tickets. So stay tuned for that. Don't go anywhere. At about an hour and 35-ish minutes, we'll be giving away 2 pairs of tickets. 1 pair to the Marquette game tomorrow, 1 pair to the Utah Tech game on Tuesday. Speaking about the Creighton basketball Blue Jays, they play tomorrow against Marquette, like I mentioned before, against one of the worst Marquette teams maybe of my lifetime. I don't think Marquette hasn't beaten it. I think their best win this year, Jimmy, is against Valparaiso. They have not beaten a Power 4 team this season. They're a young team, and we've went ahead and we've talked about it a couple of times, right? Like on the show, it's one of those things where Shaka Smart has turned into Dabo Sweeney, and for whatever reason, he's refused to use the transfer portal. And so they were a very old team last year with veterans like Stevie Mitchell, and they just did not go about replacing them in the right way. And now they're a young team, and they just kind of don't know their ass from their elbow at this point. They lost 69-78 to Georgetown. They've also lost to Wisconsin, Purdue, Oklahoma, Dayton, and Maryland, along with Indiana. Like I said before, their best win of the season so far has come against Central Michigan. So they go ahead and they play the Creighton Blue Jays tomorrow at the CHI Health Center. Creighton is coming off of a historic victory against Xavier. They just beat the crap out of the Musketeers. They won. So,
see, that's what Bishop should have dropped in the broadcast. That's wholesome. We can get behind that.
They beat Xavier by 41. It was by the way, they beat them by 41. Their largest margin of victory against Xavier on the road before that, Jimmy, can you guess what their largest margin of victory against Xavier on the road before their 41-point victory was?
I'm going to go with 7.
12.
It's close.
They had that was the only double-digit victory for Creighton on the road against Xavier. They just dominated them bell to bell, kind of like what Anthony Joshua will do against Jake Paul tonight. And they played with an energy and consistency on both ends of the floor that Greg McDermott had been begging for from his side. So we'll see if they go ahead and respond in kind tomorrow night, 7:30 against Marquette. Can Creighton keep it rolling? Can Austin Swartz continue to be their go-to guy in the offensive end? He's been their leading scorer, 16 points against Creighton, 16 points rather against Nebraska, 18 points against Kansas State. He had 27 points against Xavier in his last matchup. And can Nick Graves, who was a spark plug off the bench, will Greg McDermott put him back in the starting lineup, or will that be Graves' role for the rest of the year? You can find that out tomorrow, 7:30. Creighton takes on Marquette. We'll be giving away tickets to that game at 9:40, so don't forget to tune in. Yeah, I'll be here late tomorrow.
Wait a minute.
Yep, there you go. You put it together.
You two. Oh, man. See, that's the live stream we need. I could care less about the basketball game.
No, you care. You care about the basketball game.
I don't. I want to watch Packers-Bears with you and Joey as a fly on the wall.
Everybody knows Joey Colbert is a massive Packers fan. He's probably the biggest Packers fan. Well, Dan Campenden is a big Packers fan. He's also in the office.
Yeah. Watch your Dan slander.
But the Bears take on, as you can see here, everybody watching on the stream. We love the people on the stream watching. Wearing my Bears stuff today because it's probably the biggest game the Bears have played in 14 years. Yes,
it's been a while.
The game they are playing tomorrow is bigger than the playoff game against the Philadelphia Eagles. If you know, you know. People would agree with me on that.
Disagree.
It's been since, honestly, the Bears have not played this big of a game against the Packers at Soldier Field since the 2011 NFC Championship game. So, man, if the Bears win,
you will be happy.
I'm gonna be pissed drunk. I'm just gonna say
on
right
air.
Now, no, not on air.
I'll actually listen to that show.
Air. I will be partying elsewhere if they end up winning that game. So should be Should be interesting. Well, by the way, I think Joey and I will probably be on the air while that game is ending, if I had to guess.
Okay.
So, primetime game for the Bears tomorrow. They take on the Packers.
I've never listened, but I might listen this time just for that.
Yeah, it'll be something. The Bears currently right now are an underdog in that game, if I'm not mistaken, which I think is less to do about actual football and more to do with the fact that the Packers have just absolutely dominated the Bears for my entire lifetime. Oh no, wow, that line has shifted. The Bears are a 1.5 favorite now. -1.5 is Chicago. The Micah Parsons injury definitely has shifted that line. On top of the fact that the Bears.
There you go, Jerry, playing chess while the Packers were playing checkers.
Well, let me say this. Everybody talks about Caleb Williams and his inaccuracies, and I will be the first to admit, guy's got plenty of flaws. But the Bears, for the last about 8 weeks, have had by far the best run game in the NFL, and they were able to impose their will on the Packers last time they played. So we'll see what happens there. It's quarterback day, in my opinion, in Lincoln today, as Matt Rule will take the podium. He will speak at around, if I had to guess, typically when they say practice ends at 1:05, that gives you about a 5 to 10 minute buffer. Matt Rule is not Scott Frost, where he shows up like 45 minutes late to a press conference. Yeah, no. Matt Rule's, for the most part, has been really good about showing to press conferences up on time. So about 1:10, 1:15, Matt Rule will speak to the media. I'm sure there will be a ton of candid quarterback questions and quarterback answers to which we are curious, because Matt Rule give kind of the standard, hey, we got to bring someone in, and obviously got to get guys on scholarship, and, competition is great. Does he give you coach speak, or does he give you the full falafel? Does he tell you, hey, we're going to have a quarterback competition heading into 2026. We believe in TJ, but we know that, if we're going to win next year against the tough schedule we have, we need to have a high-level quarterback. We're going to bring in the best available. Well, I'll be curious to hear what his answers are. It was interesting yesterday. We had some more quarterbacks enter the transfer portal. Bo Pribula of Missouri.
Oh, good for him. Get out of that.
Entered the transfer portal.
There's too many teeth for there.
I think it's Pribula. I've always pronounced his name wrong. Same thing with Pavia. I've always said Diego Pavia. It's like I'm Steve Sipple when he goes Ramir Johnson.
But it just rolled off the
tongue. It does. But anyway, Pribula, he was
tropical tomorrow night at Soldier Field. 35 at kickoff.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
He's Bo. I think Bo's got one more year of eligibility left, because he played 11 games as a freshman, and as a sophomore at Penn State, and then he played 10 games last season for Missouri. 67% completion percentage, 1941 yards, 11 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. But Pribula, talk about a guy who is really good on the feet. 95 carries, 297 yards. He had 6 rushing touchdowns last season. He definitely had some really good moments as the quarterback for the Missouri Tigers.
So the first question, the rules: will you get Levitt and Pribula, or just one of the two?
You know what? He played a good game against Auburn. 252 yards, double overtime victory. He did throw 2 interceptions, and that'll be a problem. That's an issue. I mean, in his last 5 games, he had 2 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. But threw over 230 yards against Oklahoma. That's not an easy thing to do. Was fairly efficient against Alabama. Had 2 touchdowns on 16 of 28. Also ran for 61 yards against Alabama. Had 1 touchdown. So Pribula, not the Buell of the ball, if you will.
Nice.
Thank you. Okay. But definitely a fairly high quality quarterback that's played in a high quality conference that has shown that, hey, can get the job done and win some games. But on top of that, I think that there are better quarterback prospects out there. But if you can fix them, if you can get them to turn the ball over just a little bit less, get them more efficient, get the completion percentage up. The dude is an athlete. There's a reason why Penn State, even when they had Drew Aller, who was playing some of his better football as their starting quarterback, that they were using him pretty consistently in the run game. I mean, he was a massive part of Penn State's. Well, he was actually a very famous story where he had to leave before they went on the run they went on in the college football playoff, because he needed to just find himself a spot and find himself a starting job. And so, I don't think Penn State ends up, beating Notre Dame if they have Bo Pribula on their team. But he was a main factor in a very, very good Penn State team, and then goes to Missouri and shows some real promise. Had some ups, had some downs. There was some rumors that maybe Nebraska would be interested in him, so maybe he is a name to keep an eye on. I'll tell you a name that I think is not a name to keep an eye on for Nebraska. I don't think this is a guy that Nebraska will target, but I think if you're just a college football fan in general, he's a big name to keep an eye on. I would not be surprised if he ends up being somebody's Will Howard, where Will Howard was a good quarterback in the Big 12, did a lot of good things for Kansas State, and then ended up transferring right to Ohio State and winning a national title. I think this guy, also coming from the Big 12, his name's Josh Hoover. I think he has the possibility of being an impact player like that. He's got 1 year left of eligibility.
Signetti.
You know what? Indiana would be a very, very interesting team for Josh Hoover to go and join. I don't know. Maybe if Florida can put together something real quick for Summerall and they can get competing right away, he'd be an interesting fit for Florida. Or if Lane Kiffin doesn't end up getting Lagway or Bryce Underwood like it's been rumored like he wants to, Josh Hoover, I think, would be awesome in a Lane Kiffin offense. But he had 29 touchdowns last year, 13 interceptions, a 65% completion percentage. I'll tell you right now, he's going to be awesome for a team in college football, plug and play. Not a Nebraska guy, but definitely a dude that if you're a college football fan to keep an eye out for, because I think he's going to make an impact somewhere across the country, be a immediate, instant impact quarterback. I think today, after the Matt Rule press conference, and obviously there will be some more rumors that will come out as the weeks go on, we might get a better idea as to we might get a better idea as to what Nebraska is looking for. I don't think there's any harm in revealing details and being transparent here, right? Like this isn't a salary cap, right?
Try it.
But here's the thing, Jimmy.
Why not?
This isn't a salary cap. This isn't a system in which somebody could say, "Oh, we know that we have more money than you. We objectively know we have more money than you. Just to mess with you, we're going to raise the price and outbid you because we know." No, like I think it's one of those things where if Nebraska has a quarterback, there's no harm in revealing the type of guys they're going after. And so,
we're going after dudes.
Well,
next question.
I think we'll have a better idea of who Nebraska could be involved for potentially after today's press conference, because the quarterback questions will be flying because Nebraska needs to go out and get a quarterback. Let's see here. Volleyball stage is set for the NCAA tournament. Texas A&M is going to take on Kentucky. And I did not watch the game live, but I saw Kentucky and Wisconsin had an absolute thriller. 5 sets, 15-13. In the final set, Kentucky ends up advancing to the national championship. They will take on the Aggies. That game, I think we mentioned before, will be on, I don't know what time, but will be on Sunday or it'll be tomorrow, I believe. Let me look this up here. Championship between A&M and Kentucky. So that is going to be, let's see, that'll be on Sunday, right? So today, yeah, it'll be on Sunday on ABC in Kansas City I'm trying to find a time here for people to.
Daytime.
Well, yeah, I'm assuming it's at 3:00, but A&M will take on Kentucky. Wonder how many, so I did not watch the game yesterday, but it's one of those things where I wonder when I do watch, because I will watch the national championship, how many Nebraska fans I would love to know.
Lullaby last night.
I would love to know how many just Nebraska fans are in Kansas City in general, who, despite the fact the Huskers did not make it to the NCAA tournament, decided to still honor probably.
Yeah. Did you go? 951-1620.
Yeah.
Did you
go?
eat barbecue?
Go and talk to us.
What'd you have? How was it?
We go to the J-Tech Construction Zone Twitter feed where we have a couple of tweets. Iowa JD, who, by the way, big loss yesterday for Iowa. LeVar Woods, their longtime special team coordinator, was a player under Kirk Ferentz when I believe Ferentz first arrived there, decides he is going to go to Michigan State to be the special teams coordinator and the associate head coach under Pat Fitzgerald. Clearly, to me, this is a Kirk telling LeVar, hey, you got to go somewhere.
I got at least 20 or 30 years left.
No, it's not.
I'm not going anywhere.
To me, I think this is the classic, hey, you will be the head coach of this team one day, but I want you to go out and get your own experiences, right? You can't just be trapped in Iowa and just know how we do things here. You need to learn some other things, and maybe even Kirk, from a coaching perspective, thinks that LeVar needs to make his own mistakes, and kind of figure things out for himself. And I think that we've seen this sometimes, Jimmy, where you go ahead and you hire a coach that was in a building for a long time, and they try and be the coach that they're replacing instead of trying to be themselves. And I think that this is a really good opportunity for LeVar Woods.
Nevertheless, what a hire by Fitz.
Oh, insane hire by Fitz. An incredible hire.
High stock and Sparty.
Now, here's the thing, though. Like, it's no surprise that LeVar Woods is going to Michigan State, because if you know, Fitz and Ferentz have a very good relationship together. So I think his name, I forget his son's name, but Pat Fitzgerald's son was the quarterback at Loyola Academy in Chicago, one of the best football programs in the state of Illinois. I think they've won back-to-back state championships in the highest class in Illinois. Just consistently a well-coached and just a well-run program. And I think his name was Charlie Fitzgerald, if I'm not mistaken. Was a really good athlete, really good quarterback, but didn't have a ton of D1 interest. He ended up being a walk-on QB at the University of Iowa. And so Kirk, definitely. Now I think that Pat Fitzgerald's son, deserved to be on a P5 roster, but Kirk gave his son a chance, and obviously those two have a really good relationship. And so Kirk tells LeVar, hey, you have this opportunity at Michigan State. Go there, learn your lessons. We'll see. I mean, obviously this communicates that, there's at least one more year left in the Kirk Ferentz era of Iowa football. And then I think we're all going to assume when Kirk decides, all right, my time is done, LeVar will probably travel for Michigan State
15,
over to Iowa.
years.
So, I mean, we've seen it in terms of a local perspective, right? I mean, this is exactly what John Cook did with Danny Busboom Kelly, right? He told Danny Busboom Kelly, if you're ever going to be the coach at the University of Nebraska, you got to go elsewhere. Kirk Ferentz tells that to LeVar Woods. Like you mentioned, Jimmy, massive hire for Michigan State, but also pretty damn big loss for,
very big
for Iowa. I mean, LeVar Woods has been regarded as one of the best special teams coordinators in all of the land, and rightfully so. I mean, Iowa, I'd be shocked if Caden Weegen doesn't win his second Jet Award in as many years. And I'd be shocked if he's not here in April sitting down with us having an interview after his incredible season. So LeVar Woods, an incredibly accomplished special teams coordinator for Iowa, makes things a little bit easier for Nebraska, if we're being honest. But you got to think that Iowa special teams are still probably going to be top notch, because that is just the identity of that program, because Iowa has something that Nebraska doesn't, and that's an identity.
Way to tie it back together.
Goes
well
ahead
done,
and tweets in, yes, he, and I think he's referring to Matt Rule, needs to win back the fans. He had just had the easiest schedule in Husker history with year 2 of a 5-star and went 7-5. He honestly should be fired. I don't know if he should be fired. I think, and I had a great email here.
You had a great comment before the season, although you said 6-6, not 7-5. So that kind of
what, Iowa JD?
No, you.
Oh, I mean, yeah. I mean, I think what happened, right? He went 7-5, and I called for, if they do that, they need to have a full autopsy of the program. They fired their defensive coordinator, offensive line coach, and defensive line coach. So I think that's as full autopsy as you can get. And they told Dylan Raiola, well, then, there was a parting of ways between Dylan Raiola and Nebraska football. But I did get a good email from a listener, Michelle, and she kind of said the same thing in terms of, so Iowa JD says he honestly should be fired. 7-5 is disappointing, but I think you have to recognize that the program is in a much better spot now than it was when he first got here. And Michelle kind of emailed in and was like, basically said to me, hey, you're being tough. You're being a little bit more tough than usual on the Huskers. And, she says, she writes this line here, but then she goes, She goes, here's an observation I've had, especially today. You seem to be talking tougher about the Husker football team than you previously had. Maybe it's because you mentioned that you're out of patience, but then you say it's better than it's been in the past 15 years or so. I suppose both can be true. Both can be true. Okay? Both can be very true. Nebraska football can have been disappointing in 2025. And Nebraska football can have a lot of questions that need to be answered, as in, why aren't you better in the trenches? And why don't you have an identity?
I still love you.
But you can also acknowledge the fact that Matt Rule and his staff have come in here and have Nebraska football moving in the right direction, and have Nebraska football doing positive things, and have Nebraska football in a way better spot now than they were when they found it. Okay. And so you have to give them credit for both, which is exactly what happens when you have a 7-5 football roster. Okay. Both things can be true. When you're an average football team, you're bad at some things and you're good at other things. Okay. And so you kind of have to give them credit on both sides. Matt Rule gets credit for hiring Jeep Wade. Matt Rule gets credit for identifying a guy like Rob Orich, who I think is, a really good fit for what this program needs. But while he gets credit for hiring those two guys, you do have to rake them through the mud, and the fact that, why did you have to hire them in the first place? Why did the hires before that fail? Why have now at this point you have hired?
Why should we have faith now?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like
you hired Ditka.
A very quiet, a very maybe not for because this listening audience and the people who listen to this show at 1620 are very smart, so it's not a secret to them. But
shout out you guys.
A secret to national media would be the amount of coordinators that Matt Rule has run through in 3 years. He's had 2 different offensive coordinators. He's had 3 different defensive coordinators, and he's had 2 different special teams coordinators.
No. Yeah,
he's had 7 different coordinators.
At least he's not being stubborn and not making changes. But at the same time, can you get it right?
Yes, thank you, Jim. So I don't know, and also too, I think it might sound that I'm being a little tougher on Matt Rule just because I don't have Gary to bounce off of today and stuff like that, and it's just me you're hearing.
That's okay.
But I think I've been fairly consistent.
I would sit at a bar and drink Capri Suns with you and listen to you.
I feel like I've been pretty consistent on the fact that I don't think you can deny that Nebraska has made progress. I don't think you can deny that Matt Rule has done some good things here at Nebraska. I don't think you can deny that Matt Rule has raised the floor and has brought stability to the Nebraska football program. He's done that. I don't think you can deny, though, that he has not kept some promises. Because he came in and he immediately said, we're going to build this team through the trenches. He's failed to be dominant in the trenches. He's talked so many times about how he wants to be a physical football team. Everybody listening, you watch them play football on Saturdays. They weren't that physical. Okay. You said that, you lack an identity after 3 years of being the head coach of Nebraska football. That's unacceptable. You have guys questioning energy. And so, and you've made some very questionable hires, whether it be at the coordinator positions or at the assistant coaching positions. And I don't think that's necessarily being tough. I think that's that's the truth. And so, I think at this point through 3 years, you can still trust the process of Matt Rule, and you can still say, you know what, he's gotten some of these things right in the past. I'm going to stick with it. But also, too, if you want to take things with grains of salt, I don't blame you at all, because frankly, there are some things that I'll be taking with grains of salt, and probably be taken with grains of salt today when he talks at 1:15. All right, we're going to have to hit a break here, but we got Denver Broncos Eric on the line. They got a big game against Jacksonville coming up, so we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll also hit more of your emails in the Equitable Bank inbox. Equitable Bank, they take banking personally. 9 o'clock, we're going to have big game Willie Wilson Moore here on the show, talking about Husker basketball. Then the Swiss Army knife of Omaha TV, Lauren Michelson, will call in at 9:20. We'll have a conversation with her, and then we'll end the show with previewing the weekend. College football playoffs, 2 bangers of games, 2 meh games. We'll also have a great slate of NFL football. We also got a bunch of other sports, national championship in volleyball happening on Sunday. We'll talk a little bit about that. Don't go anywhere. Listen to Gary and Matt on 1620 The Zone. Hey, 1620 The Zone is giving away pairs of tickets to the upcoming AEW Dynamite New Year Smash, Wednesday, December 31st at Liberty First Credit Union Arena. Fans can expect an action-packed evening featuring AEW's incredible roster of male and female wrestlings. Witness athleticism, massive personalities, and exciting storylines that have made AEW a sensation. This includes the live broadcast of AEW Dynamite on TBS, and you can go ahead and see the star-studded roster, which includes Adam Hangman Page, Jon Moxley, Christian Cage, Tony Storm, Mercedes Moné, MVP, Darby Allin, Kyle Fletcher, Bandito, and Mark Briscoe, and many more. Listen all week to the Connor Happer Show for a chance to win. We will go ahead and go to the Prairie Flower Casino hotline, 402-951-1620 if you want to get in on the conversation here. Prairie Flower Casino, play longer, win more. Denver Broncos, Eric is on line 2.
But not about the Broncos.
Eric. Oh, not about the Broncos.
Not
Eric,
about the
what do you got
Broncos.
for me?
Okay. This gave me. Bear with me for just a second.
I'll bear with
I
you.
have a weird
I'll bear down
correlation
with
for
you.
Okay.
I'll bear down with you.
Nice.
Think about this. And the conversation you're having about Matt Rule and him blasting 3 coordinators, it took my Denver Broncos a couple of years, but you can say right now, arguably, the Broncos have one of the top 5 offensive lines in football, one of the top 5 defensive lines in football. Until Matt Rule is able to figure out how to control the line of scrimmage in the Big Ten, we going nowhere.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay? Straight up. And he was fortunate to have Ty and Nash for that first year or two. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Without those gentlemen, we got to find people to replace them. And obviously this year, we didn't find the people to replace them.
No.
Okay?
No.
And until we can get this done, I'm a diehard Husker fan too, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I've been listening to Huskers. I went down to Miami in 95. Okay? Trust me.
I hear you.
I love it. I do. But I was never a big fan of Matt Rule to begin with because I saw what he did in Carolina at the NFL level.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping. I really am.
Scott Shanley.
And by the way, yeah, Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence, I'm sorry, boss. I just hope he don't get hurt. I really do.
Well, yeah, that's a
But
nice.
Denver gonna win that game.
That's a baseline, Eric.
Denver going to be the number 1 seed, and the road to the Super Bowl going to go through Mile High, baby.
Longest Mark Brunell doesn't walk on that field, you're good, Eric.
Yes, sir.
We'll
yes,
talk
sir.
to talk to you soon.
Believe that.
Talk to you soon, my friend. Talk to you soon. Eric
open up a
Tony,
wound.
I mean, look, it's hard to compare. Hard to compare NFL teams and NFL paths to college football, just because. I mean, the games actually, funny enough, have never been more similar, but they still are incredibly different. I mean, it's just one of those things where, obviously you go through Matt Rule's hiring cycle, mistakes were made, but they just have to be, corrected, and you have to give at least some optimism to the fact that Jeep Wade has a long tenured resume and a resume that has a lot of pelts on the wall, and he's proven a lot of things, proven that he can develop offensive linemen at a pretty high clip. And, obviously his blocking style matches the style of Dana Holgerson a little bit more. Like, you got to give him credit for that. You got to give him credit for the last time that Matt Rule hired a defensive coordinator off of the principle that he turned around a struggling defense. He hired Tony White, who I think you can make an argument has turned out to be his best, maybe even, Eckler versus White, definitely who is the better coordinator hire, but still, hiring off of that principle, you got to have a little bit of optimism for that. And maybe he'll be able to do, what he was able to do at San Diego State. It's just one of those things where, it'll be at a higher level. And I think if you want to find a common denominator between all these things of Matt Rule's and his, I don't want to call him hiring struggles. It definitely hasn't been the best at hiring coaches. I mean, that's just kind of the honest truth, but it's not as if it's been, every coach he's hired has been terrible, but a common denominator has been a lack of Big Ten experience. And, the one guy that did hire, that did have Big Ten experience, went ahead and made a massive impact right away. And I still think that's something that this coaching staff is missing in terms of initial hires. But I will say this, Jimmy, it seems like at this point, reports are that Elijah Robinson is probably going to go to Texas A&M. And so their big swing to get one of the better D-line
Damn
coaches,
Trev again.
Yep. It seems like he's going to go to A&M probably after they get eliminated from the college football playoff, or if they win the national championship. And so when that happens, and it's not a finalized thing yet, but right now it's trending that Robinson is going to end up going back to Texas A&M, a place that he was at from 2018 to 2023. Matt Rule is going to have an opportunity to go ahead and reevaluate the defensive line market and make it higher. And I think that's something, if I were Matt Rule and if I were making the decision, I think that Big Ten experience is something that would be on the top of my list, because they have, Matt Rule has failed to hire consistently guys who have had years in the Big Ten. And if we're just kind of, when you're making mistakes, right, and the same things are happening over and over again, you have to find common denominators. And one of the common denominators is that, Matt Rule necessarily hasn't hired the dudes who have coached in the conference and have a lot of experience in this conference, because, it's been a learning process for Matt Rule being a coach in the Big Ten, in my opinion. He did not have Big Ten experience when he first came to Nebraska. He had an idea of what the Big Ten is. But I think that after a year, he realized that he needed to construct his roster in a different way. And I think now you're probably going to see that happen even more so, where there's going to be more of an emphasis on the run game and more of an emphasis on the trenches and more of an emphasis on going with four down linemen. So I think that, if you want to summarize the Matt Rule experience so far, through 3 years, it's, the guy has learned from his mistakes. He's learned from mistakes that he's made. Problem is that he's made a lot of them. And you have to give him credit for going about it in the right ways at times and correcting them, but you also have to acknowledge that he's made them, which I think always comes down to the fact that this is a 7-5 football team, and they're a 7-5 football team for a reason. We go back to the Equitable Bank inbox, where they take banking personally. Old man Doug always picks up on the first ring.
Hi, Doug.
John goes ahead and emails in, yes, Rule has run through a bunch of coordinators. Nebraska still sucks. What is the common denominator? That's right. It's Rule. He's a bad coach. All of you guys are getting so close to admitting it. Take that pill and do it. You will feel great. I'm not going to say Matt Rule's bad coach. I will not go there. Is Matt Rule a great coach? Absolutely not. Is Matt Rule, has his stock gone down after this season? Yeah. And it should have. And it definitely should have. There were too many things that were going on within that team that should not have been going on in year 3 of Matt Rule. There should not have been a question of energy. Okay. There should not have been a disconnect between your coordinators on how you view the game of football and how you view players and how you evaluate players. There should not have been, you are in the Big Ten. The fact that you were that malleable to the run game is beyond me. It is beyond me.
Kind of one of the most important things to address.
And also too, I think they massively overrated their ability to develop within the defensive line, because let's just be real here. They did not develop the defensive line the way that they needed to. And so it needs to get better. It needs to get better. It needs to improve. But it didn't improve at the rate that it did. And I think they made some mistakes with now. Look, it's interesting to go back, Jimmy, and look at like what they did in the transfer portal last year to what the results were. I think if you're looking back on it, you say, hey, they probably should have invested less in wide receivers and invested more in the defensive line. But I think now, revisionist history, looking back on it, they were definitely catering to something that no longer is on the roster. And now you just need to cater to the roster. And catering to the roster is going ahead and establishing, hey, we need to be better in the trenches. And I'll ask this question, and we'll talk about it, toward the end of the show. How would we feel about Nebraska football if they did not have the money that they are claiming that they have? How would we feel about this current roster, and how would we feel about this current program if Matt Rule and Troy Dannon weren't telling everybody, hey, we had some great donors come in and have given us the finances to compete with teams toward the top of the transfer portal? How would we feel about the current roster right now? Because let's evaluate
not great,
this.
Bob.
No, not great at all. Because let's evaluate this. They have a weak defensive line. They need to address immediately. They need to address linebackers. They probably need another safety. They need another offensive tackle. And they need to go ahead and they need to get another tight end. Okay. Those are just things that just right off the bat, evaluation of this team from the 7-5 season they had in 2025. Those are the things you say. They need more D linemen. They need new linebackers. They probably need another better run fit safety. They need another tight end, and they need another offensive tackle. Okay. Just whether it be starting offensive tackle or tackle for depth reasons, but they just need one. That is before you lose your starting running back. That is before you lose your starting quarterback. That is before you lose your best corner. Okay. That is before you lose your best safety, right? That is before you lose your second tight end. Okay. That is before you lose Sierra Wright, Deshaun Singleton, Dylan Raiola, Emmett Johnson, on top of probably two of your better offensive linemen and Rocco Spindler and Henry Lutovsky. Okay. So you had a lot of things to address before all of those guys left. Now those guys left, you have a laundry list of things you need to go out and get. And if Matt Rule and Troy Dannon weren't telling everybody, hey man, donors came through, they gave us the financial support we need, we're going to be able to go and compete with the top of the teams in terms of the transfer portal cycle, like how would we be feeling if they didn't have that, right? And money is great, and the NIL era is great, and it's awesome that Nebraska has been able to use it to their advantage. At the same time, though, like you got to question, man, like how did we get here that you have so many things that you have to go and address in order to be a good team next year in a year that is going to be massive with a schedule that is going to be difficult?
Less than ideal.
It's one of those things where you're very, very fortunate that you're in the era that you're in because you can go and plug those holes that are in the boat. But frankly, there are too many holes that are in the boat. But what if they have the money? They have the money, and they've proved in the past that they can go in the portal and get high-impact guys. And if we're actually looking at some of the things that Matt Rule has done the best in his tenure at Nebraska, probably going in the portal and getting some good dudes, if we're being honest. I mean, he's gotten some really important players out of the portal that have gone and performed. Has he gotten that superstar out of the portal? No. But he's gotten some really solid pieces that have gone on to help this team. Now, obviously haven't helped them enough because they haven't won more than 7 games. But, it's just a food for thought that Nebraska's going to have to rely heavily on their ability to evaluate and acquire in the portal. But more importantly, they got to step up in development. All right, coming up next, we'll read some more of your tweets, read some more of your emails, talk about some of the NFL games, big NFL games that are coming up, along with college football playoff games. And then we'll go ahead and talk to Wilson Moore at 9 o'clock and Lauren Michelson at 9:20. Don't go anywhere. Gary and Matt on 1620 The Zone. This is Mike Jones.
Who?
Mike Jones.
Memories.
Hey, got a great weekend of college basketball.
Shout out Houston. Hey, that's a good song for Gary then.
Shout out Houston. That is a good song for Gary. Speaking about Houston, they actually play a pretty damn big game this week. The number 8 Houston plays number 14 Arkansas, 4:30 on CBS.
This is
Auburn,
basketball?
Yeah, college basketball. Auburn, Purdue on the Peacock, man. Let me tell you what, man. Those are two, Stephen Pearl, obviously not as good of a coach as his father, but still that very talented Auburn roster has kind of been able to keep things together. They're ranked 21st in the country. They go on the road to Mackey to play number 6 Purdue, who has had, quite the season outside of getting bludgeoned by Iowa State. But outside of that, Purdue, man, we're a really good basketball team. They've won their last 2 games by 20-plus points. And then everybody's talking about him. Probably going to end up being the number 1 overall pick. Maybe the guy from BYU, but it's going to come down to Dybansa and Cam Boozer. Number 3, Duke plays number 19, Texas Tech, which, by the way, this will probably be a summer topic, but the Texas Tech has just found a way to be good in just seems like every single
money.
sport. I mean,
oil money.
I mean, that's what it is. I mean, you have to find the chicken.
You
got to find the chicken nugget man, or the Walmart people, or the crumble cookie czars, or the oil people, or you just got to hope that an old man like David Booth just got really rich
shout
and
out
loves
Mr.
you.
Booth.
Yeah, shout out Mr. Booth while you're wearing your Kansas Jayhawks sweater. You just got to hope that an old rich man or woman loves your.
Who owns the Runza? Maybe the Runza can start buying players.
That is a great question, Jimmy.
That is a marriage right there. If I ever seen.
Real quick, did you see this? That
Dorothy Lynch viewers cheese spread.
No, that that
cross string.
And I don't mix politics and sports, but apparently, because this is sport, that it was announced from the presidency that the Patriot Games will be a 4-day athletic event featuring 1 man and 1 woman from each state and U.S. territory for America's 250th.
Be the greatest TV show ever.
So I guess this is like the athletic Hunger Games.
You know what? We are venturing real close to where we're just going to siphon off Wyoming, and it's going to become like the Running Man.
I'm just
saying, and we're going to watch.
That is literally the athletic plot of the Hunger Games. Is each district
state loves America more.
Each state gets 1 man and 1 woman, and they go ahead and they compete, and we'll call it the Patriot Games because they're all patriots. And like that, I'm just saying. That is, it's a funny idea. I honestly,
Budweiser will be all over that stuff.
I'm going to be honest with you. It kind of sounds awesome.
And Fox.
It kind of sounds awesome, to be real. Like, it sounds like something that I will definitely be tuning in for, and I will definitely be rooting for Team Illinois. Now, I'm going to be real with you. I don't know. Like, this is a great question. Like, from your home state, who would be the 2 best athletes of all time?
Seriously,
that you could pair?
Who are you sending from Nebraska?
Well, so that's the thing. It's like, if you could, this is a great question for people to tweet at me and email me.
Sam Hoiberg.
Yeah, no. Pick the 2 greatest athletes of all time. You get dead or alive that you would send to the Patriot Games could go ahead and represent you. Okay. I mean,
dead or alive? I say you just leave it to alive.
Alive?
Yeah. Who are you going to send from Nebraska?
Well, right now, who would you send right now from Nebraska? Probably, I have my female candidate, Axelina Johansson, who recently
That's a great name
for Nebraska in the end. No, I guess she's a college athlete. I don't know if she would be considered a red.
There are no rules. Resident? Rules don't matter anymore.
I mean, what like if you have a Nebraska license, are you qualified to represent Nebraska?
Tominaga.
I would send Axelina Johansson because she just set an indoor. I think it was a shot put record for the NCAA. I mean, she's one of the best, one of the greatest women's NCAA, or one of the greatest women's track and field athletes in Nebraska history. She's a thrower. She's been setting records since the minute she's come. She went to Nebraska. So that'd probably be my female candidate. I don't know about a male current candidate for Nebraska. If we were going all time and I had to pick for Illinois, Derrick Rose would be my Patriots game representative.
Wouldn't he break halfway through it?
No, he wouldn't. He would be fine.
Rather send Scottie Pippen and his defense.
It's just really funny to see the announcement of these Patriot games, as in some people were like, Hey, this is dope. This is awesome. Like, I'm definitely going to tune in to see like Illinois take on Idaho. Or I can't wait until Nebraska and Connecticut have a blood rivalry because, the semifinals came down
Rhode
to the
Island,
wire.
small in state, but
Rhode
large
Island.
in presence.
But then the other reaction was, well, isn't literally, didn't we write a whole book about a dystopian universe that put together two people, a man and a woman from each territory to compete against one another for glory? Funny
Katniss
things.
Everdeen
How life
of West Virginia.
How life imitates art. And do you know what? Do you know who imitates? I was trying to find a good segue. I can't find one. Big Game Willie coming up next year. That's all that matters. Big Game Willie. Talking about Nebraska basketball. They got 2 bye games.
That's better.
There it is. That's more appropriate. They got 2 more bye games before they face off against Michigan State on January 2nd, and will sure be one of the biggest games in the Fred Hoiberg era for Nebraska basketball. What are you laughing at? The comments are probably going off about the Patriot games.
Our commenters on the stream on the what is he called, the chat room?
Yeah, the chat room. What is he called? The chat room.
They seriously are the damn best, and they're on a roll today.
Shout out Doug. Shout out Rules.
Shout out all you guys.
Shout out Bigley. Shout out Broomstick. Shout out Fongway. Shout out Captain. He was in here earlier. Shout out Tommy. Shout out all the people in our chat room. But most importantly, Big Game Willie coming up next. Nebraska basketball. Don't go anywhere. Gary Matt, 1627. of that music. Big game. Willie is here. There he is. Willie Wilson, Omaha Harold, covering the team. Billy, are you just sitting up on a hill eating grapes and cheeses while you're chilling on Barricade Beach in Gel Mountain, watching over the Sam Hoiberg skyscraper, the Sam Hoiberg skyline?
Something like that, Matt. I don't know where to go with that metaphor. I'm going to top that one.
Here's trying to some good for the most part. Bad, but definitely covered a little bit of turmoil and not good basketball. 15 games in a row. Okay, and more than likely they're going to extend that to 17 State on January 2nd. From your perspective, just how has it been covering this team? Because, I think in my small experiences, there are some teams that are fun to cover. There are some teams that are not fun. This one, just looking at how they play, chemistry, it seems like really this is a fun team to get there.
Yeah, they certainly play enjoyable basketball to watch. It's a team that shares the ball at a given time. There's always 4 or 5 shooters on the floor. It's very it's very smooth to watch, and I think it's probably the team, at least since I've been here, that fits Fred Hoiberg's vision best. Just a bunch of veteran guys who can share the ball, and in an offensive system that really values spacing and spreading a defense out. That fits that the most. There's no Bryce Williams that who has to score this amount of points to give them a chance. They spread it out a little bit more and just ride whoever has the hot hand at a given time, which we saw in the first half in the most recent game against Illinois. That was Bryce Stanford. Other days, it's been Rink Mack, Braden Prager, DeMarcus Lawrence. It's just it's a team that knows how to play with each other, team of guys that understand, the value of playing with each other and just, put their egos aside.
Is there ever a concern for you with not only I mean, has it been shocking to you at all? Whole year off, he's not just playing like one of the best players in the team, but one of the best players in the team. How's that been for you watching?
Yeah, I think that's always a concern when a guy has a surgery as invasive as what Rink Mack has. People have these surgeries. That's the thing that happens. It's not always so intense that it takes them out for an entire season. He went 19 or 20 months between basketball games. I think what Max did have going was that his skill set was never based on explosiveness. He was never a guy, who was going to rise up and throw a dunk down over someone. I think he had one dunk in that first season with Nebraska, but it was always based on skill and craftiness and just basketball IQ. And that was all stuff that obviously there was going to be an adjustment period coming back. I remember he talked preseason about just getting his timing back was a big thing, but at the same time, those are all things that you can maintain, or that don't necessarily have to disappear when you're injured the way he was.
Looking at kind of the Boogie, who I don't know still, but he's the guy that they got him from Central Michigan, correct? Listen.
Yep.
So he has been hurt, and he actually was a pretty big addition for them. So had a really good season with Central Michigan. Kind of be this guy that it seems like he's ready back. might be able to play in the next couple of weeks here. What is the news on him, and what are your expectations for him when he does come back?
Yeah, Fred Hoiberg just talked about him the other day. Basically, they're going to make a decision on him this weekend. He could play against North Dakota. He practiced earlier this week, did non-contact stuff. He is off today. That was part of the whole um, long-term plan with him, and then he'll practice again before North Dakota, and they'll make a decision from there. He's a guy that fits into things, kind of like I was saying. He can shoot. He can do some kind of more guard-like things as a big man, but Fred Hoiberg is saying that one of the big things they wanted for is rebounding. If you watch that Illinois game, you saw that was probably the area where Nebraska struggled the most, allowing offensive rebounds to Illinois, and that's somewhere where they can really use another big man. He can play the three, the four or the five, which they don't always have to throw him or Jared Garcia in there. So when Sergey Buchenzel or Max comes out, then they don't have to go small with, say, Braden Frager at the floor. They don't have to sacrifice some of that height that they maybe do now. So he'll give them, another shooter as a big man, and just more lineup versatility, I think, and more options in your lineup.
Ugnis Yarushevicius is
Yarushevicius.
Yeah. That was ridiculous. No, I'm kidding. Now listen, so watching this team, right? I think it's been very noticeable how much chemistry they have, and like you said earlier, right, that this is the team that probably fits Fred Hoiberg's vision the best out of any roster that he's constructed at the University of Nebraska. But the question has always been kind of athleticism, right? How would they deal with teams that are more athletic than them? Now they went on the road and they played Illinois, but I wouldn't say that Illinois is necessarily an overly athletic team. Now, they are more athletic than Nebraska on paper. They were just, bigger, longer in terms of just, their size and whatnot. They're going to play a Michigan State team that is very athletic, that can jump out the gym, that can, run the fast break at a pretty good clip. How big of a question or how big of an answer will Nebraska's performance against Michigan State be in terms of playing teams that can out athletic them?
Yeah, it'll be big. I think what Nebraska needs to do is just understand that Michigan State's going to do what it does, and it can't try to, be anything more than that. The rules are going to be the same for Nebraska. Michigan State's a team that loves to crash the glass, gets a lot of rebounds. Nebraska's going to have to box out. They can't let themselves get sped up by the way Michigan State plays defense. I think if you try to get in that, if you try to be something you're not and be more athletic than Michigan State, it's going to turn into a long day for you. Nebraska just has to understand what Michigan State's strengths are, what Nebraska's strengths are, and play off that.
What do you think that, using these next two games, they play North Dakota on the 21st, using these next two games as a tune-up heading into Michigan State that you would like to see from them, maybe see them experiment with, maybe some things they could potentially fix before they head to Michigan State?
Well, one, I would say just get Yarushevicius, comfortable, sure. get him some minutes, and because that's a long road back. It's been a while since he played organized basketball. It's not going to happen overnight. So just to get him enough playing time that he's back into something of a rhythm and is able to contribute. And the other thing I think is important for Nebraska is just to go in and leave no doubt in these two games. You don't want to see a team get kind of too high on itself. If that makes sense. And that's the thing Fred Hoiberg has talked about constantly this season. After every big win, it's just, great win. Can't let it linger. Got to put it behind us. Got to get back to practice Monday. And I think just to see that would be encouraging with this team, knowing that even after, hey, you're, the number 15 team in the country. You're this big national story. You're getting a lot of love. Just that they, didn't let that feeling hang around. That they didn't lose that edge, that urgency that has helped them get to this point. And if they do that, then you would still see them just take it to two teams that they're supposed to. I think that would show that they're in the right headspace going into the bulk of Big Ten play.
Willie, I know that a lot of people are probably going to ask you about, Sam Hoiberg. How have you seen him improve as a player on the court? And obviously he's taken massive strides since I think it was his debut was, or his Big Ten debut was against Penn State, and then he ended up playing that Maryland game a couple of years back. I mean, and then he's made some massive improvements since then. But I want to ask you about, how have you seen him growing as a leader? Because the way that he talks, and I know that he was on the podium a couple of days ago, and the way that he just kind of communicates not only about himself, but his team, it seems like he is one of the core leaders of this team. How have you seen him grow in that regard?
Yeah, he definitely is. I'm not sure that's really a role a ton of people would have expected from him, but when you look at this roster, he's a guy that's played a lot of college basketball, and that carries some weight. He's a guy who's been in just about every scenario that you can be, walk-on scout team guy, sort of energy guy off the bench. Now he's a pretty main cog as a starter on this Nebraska team. So I think, just the way he's worked to get to where he's gotten after starting as a guy at the end of the bench as a freshman. And yeah, he talked about that at Big Ten Media Days a few months ago, that, he felt like he had to prove himself first and then kind of take that just as a player, and then take that next step as a more vocal leader, which he's done this year.
All right, Willie, it's the $1 million question. What should Nebraska football do at quarterback? I need an answer. I need an answer immediately.
Ride with TJ Latif.
Ride with TJ. Are you at Wilson Moore? Are you at Tiffy? Do you know?
I thought I liked what he showed as a freshman. When you're that young, you show some skills. You say, okay, there's something to build off of here. Like, he's going to keep improving.
But would you say I Wilson Moore, or would you say I Wilson Moore am a Tiffy?
What does Latifi mean?
Well, you don't know. Wow, talk about if you are a TJ Latif guy, you are a Tiffy. You are
okay. I'll own it. I'll own that.
You are a. What are you?
I am a Tiffy.
There apparently. You go, Willie Moore. Absolutely incredible, from the Omaha World Herald, all-star writer, one of the best in the country covering teams here. Appreciate you, my man, Wilson Moore, OWH. We'll talk to you soon. Big game, Willie.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for having me.
Wilson Moore. What a legend. What Bill Self, what is he?
Oh, he's a stud. He's not soft. Ball doesn't
He's not soft.
He's not soft.
Willie can put back some beers, my man. Willie's talk about a guy who's fun to hang and bang with at a bar.
Mm-hmm.
Willie Moore. Does that surprise you at all? No, it doesn't.
I've never met him, so I can't weigh an opinion. I don't know.
You are his biggest fan, though. Every time
I'm a big fan of him.
You texted me yesterday. You go, hey, Friday, Gary's out. Willie coming on?
That's all that matters.
I go, because typically, by the way, and the reason why you asked that is because typically when I just for whatever reason, we just find a way to find Willie on whenever I'm solo. So we get Willie on, baby.
He really is a guy that can get you a bucket down the stretch. I mean, he can stretch the floor. He's an excellent defender out in the perimeter. Really is just a jack of all trades. He can drive, he can shoot, and just a stud.
Just a stud.
Oh yeah. He's just terrific.
Well, we will go from one stud in writing to somebody who I would consider a stud in TV, a part of KETV's incredible sports staff that includes Andy Kendi and Matt Satilli. We're going to bring on Lauren Michelson, talking all things Nebraska sports. It's going to be quite fun. We're going to have a good time talking volleyball, basketball, football, everything you need to know. Coming up next year on 6020 The Zone. Hey, don't forget, 1620 The Zone has your hookup on free Creighton men's basketball tickets. Listen to Gary and Matt, the Connor Happer Show, and USC to win. Don't forget, guys, after this interview, in the next segment, we will be giving away 2 pairs of Creighton basketball tickets, one pair to the Marquette game tomorrow, and then one pair to the Utah Tech game on Tuesday. So stay tuned for that. But more importantly, stay tuned for this upcoming interview with one of the best in the business from KETV Omaha. We bring in sport reporter Lauren Michelson. Lauren, how you doing?
I'm doing good, you guys. I think that was almost as good of an introduction as Wilson Moore's very odd one about a half hour ago.
What do you mean odd one? I'm saying that Willie is feasting right now because the team that he covers is playing incredible basketball. The team he covers is ranked 15th in the country, Lauren.
You know what? You're right. And he's waited a long time for this team to be doing what they're doing. So applaud you for that very creative introduction.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, he has been covering Missouri basketball for the last couple of years too, back to his college days. It's not like he was covering great basketball then, right, Lauren?
No, well, you know what? I was going to say how lucky do you have 2 Mizzou grads on the back-to-back. Look at that. That was on purpose, right?
Yes. Well,
I'm going to ignore that jive right there.
The problem is that Jimmy is a KU grad, and so we have the KU Missouri rivalry going.
Wait,
right
Willie
now.
went to Mizzou?
Willie went to Mizzou.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. I have to rethink everything I've said.
See, that's the problem. Now I don't think Jimmy likes Willie as much as he used to. But
like him a little less.
Yeah, a little. I mean, it's a rivalry. It's a big rivalry. Hey, funny enough, your quarterback, Bo Prabula, entering the transfer portal. It'll be interesting to see if maybe a team that you cover has interest in him joining their team. Let's start first, though, before we get into football, because, like kind of what I've been saying leading up to this interview. I mean, you cover everybody. I mean, you are, it seems like at every event, whether it be at Creighton, at Omaha, at the University of Nebraska, and any just kind of local events. So kudos to you and the great coverage that you do at KETV along with Matt and Andy. I do want to ask you about this, though. I know it happened, about a week ago, but I was watching the volleyball game, between Nebraska and Texas A&M, and then right after the volleyball game, you and Andy went live, from the court, and I see you guys there, and I've been dying to ask you what was the emotion in that building like? What was the feeling after, this kind of felt like undefeated, the team of destiny, one game away from making it to Kansas City, a trip that you had a great tweet yesterday about. You could see all the Nebraska fans, right, that were in Kansas City that had booked the trip, that were waiting to see their team play, and then to lose in the way that they did in an emotional 5-set match against A&M. Just what was it like in that building, and then having to be on camera and report in that building afterward?
Yeah, I mean, you said that the magic on a magical season kind of seemed to run out, which was, it was almost like a joke. We were like, okay, we already had booked the tickets for, fans had already booked tickets. We had hotels booked. We had plans. Everything was in store to be in Kansas City. And you're watching the first 2 sets like, oh no. I mean, this is just, no team's tested them as much. And the vibe in the building in that 4th set was unlike anything I've ever covered at Nebraska. I mean, it was it may have been the match of the year, maybe one we'll remember for the next 5 years. It was incredible. But it did just feel like everything was going wrong. I mean, I'm sure you've heard it, but there was so much illness on the team.
Yep.
You had Allie Check step on a ball pregame, and then you have Bergen Riley's backup, Campbell Flynn, breaking her pinky. And Bergen's up for AVCA Player of the Year. That will actually be announced later today. I think she has a great shot at winning it, but the fact that she could stay so composed despite literally puking, I mean, she was so impressive. But Danny Buston-Kelly said it. They just kind of maxed out in that match. And credit to Texas A&M, despite everything going on with Nebraska, they had the better defense. They outblocked them and outserved them. And but we had to originally we were planning on filling an hour. So once ABC National dumped off air, they're like, okay, Andy, Lauren, you guys cover. And then we knew we were going to throw to the press conference, but we were imagining a win and on the court interviews and all this excitement. And Jim clears out. We're waiting. We're like, just take the press conference, and we're trying to buy time. We didn't even have final stats yet, because when it goes 5 sets, it takes forever to print, and they don't calculate everything. It's a little crazy.
Yeah,
a little crazy.
Wild. That is terrible. So did you guys ended up going an hour then? Like everything checked out?
No.
No? Okay. That's
Luckily,
brutal.
we got a little saved. Yeah, the 5-setter saved us. We didn't have to go that long. We probably talked. I mean, we were probably on air we have a 5:30 show. We kind of went through to that 5:30 show. So felt longer than it was.
We'll go from one Husker team to another Husker team. I don't know if you know, but Dylan Raiola is in the transfer portal. Your take on, you were at Dana Holgerson's press conference, your take on kind of his attitude and how he addressed and honestly talked a ton about Dylan. I think more than maybe I anticipated. I mean, just what did, because it seemed like a different vibe from Dana than we typically have seen. I mean, what were your kind of takeaways from some of the things that he said and kind of the emotions that he was portraying?
Yeah, well, I think with Dana Holgerson, what you get, what you see, what you hear and see is what you get. Like, he's a very authentic individual. I mean, you guys know that. I think him and Dylan had a great relationship. That was they publicly talked about it. Like, they both talked after last season. Are you staying? Are you staying? Like, let's stay and do this together. So no doubt they had a great relationship. I mean, I think what Dana said is spot on. Like, I think his exact words were, the way I look at it is you go in the portal and get the best player you can get, and then you mold the coaching around that player. And there's certain qualities he's looking for. Like, I think something that was lacking in Dylan Raiola is that mobility aspect that TJ Lateef does have, whether he's the guy or not. But the fact that he commented on getting a guy in the portal kind of unprompted, I think is very telling.
Sure.
And I think that's the right way to approach it. And he gave, like, he was totally kind, like, wish Dylan the best, loved coaching him, everything you're supposed to say. And I don't think that's BS. I mean, I think he genuinely hopes the best for him. But I don't know. I think you get the best guy in the portal, but maybe do you need someone a little less flashy and spend some of that money elsewhere and build more around the quarterback rather than spend everything, all your resources on one guy. I mean, that's the change that this program needs for this upcoming season.
It's interesting you bring that up, Lauren, because I think that there is kind of two sides at this point, and not two sides in a bad way, but just two ways of thinking about this, right? I think there are a camp of people that I'd probably put myself in this camp that say, you know what, TJ Lateef, you hope he develops and you hope he becomes a good football player, but you got a really tough schedule coming up in 2026. You need to go and get a top portal quarterback. You need to get somebody who's had a ton of, P4 experience that has won games before. But then there's the other side of the camp that you kind of bring up, right? That is, well, maybe you get a guy who can compete with TJ, but necessarily isn't for sure going to be the starter. And then you start kind of placing that money that now is displaced from Dylan's departure in other places. Where would you say you fall? Would you fall in the camp of Nebraska's got to make a big splash at the quarterback position, or do you think that they have other places they need to supplement and they should use those resources elsewhere outside of the quarterback position?
I think, like, they've tried all in on the flashy quarterback with the pedigree.
Sure.
And I mean, it was okay, but it still wasn't flawless. I mean, nothing's flawless, but it still wasn't everything they wanted it to be. And now he's leaving. And I think with where we are now in college football, nothing is guaranteed, but I think there's more guarantee in building up, like, a strong line and the guys that actually, aren't playing with as much money. I mean, I just think they need to do something different. So if that something different means still getting, a good quarterback in the portal to compete with Lateef, and if one of them wins out and the other transfers, and that's just how it is, fine. You can't be attached to players like you used to anymore. Then let that be what it is. But I think you got to spread that wealth elsewhere and see how that goes in a year that is going to be extremely challenging. And then, I mean, this was supposed to be the big jump under Matt Rule. I kind of more feel like next year is going to be another little bit of a rebuilding year. I mean, it feels like they need to do something different.
Lauren, we'll go from, because you just covered everything with KATV. We'll go from one sport to another sport to another sport. I think what's underrated about, TV people at basketball games is that it's not just you guys have, nice press box seats. You're right on the court. You are right on the floor. You are in the action. You can, you're closer to the players than basically anyone else is allowed to be outside of the people sitting courtside. So when you go ahead and you watch Nebraska basketball, play and play at the level that they're at, compared to maybe, and you were in Lincoln and you covered the team when they weren't all that good, if we're being honest. What are some of the differences that you've seen from this Fred Hoiberg team to Fred Hoiberg teams you've covered in the past?
Yeah. And you're right. TV, a lot of people don't know, but a big part of what we do, like I have a photographer a lot of times when I'm on camera, but when I'm not on camera, we're shooting our own sports. Like we're shooting basketball games. So we're right there next to Nebraska's bench. So you see and hear a lot. And Coach Hoiberg talked about it. I think it was as soon as yesterday, but he said the one word that best describes this team is unselfish. And, that's of course a trait you want in every team, but I think it was, not as prevalent in his past teams. Like everything's selfless. It's an equal opportunity offense. Everyone's sharing the ball at one of the highest rates in the country. I mean, it's just everything seems to be working. And then now you bring in this national attention, and he's like, this has just made these guys even hungrier. And I mean, the big elephant in the room is what they have not accomplished in March yet. And it seems to be, it's a perfect balance of exactly on their minds at every moment, but not looking too far ahead. And they're doing a really good job at staying one game at a time, which is exactly what you need to do, especially when it's only December.
What do you think the ceiling is for that team?
I mean, I don't want to curse them. I want to jinx them, but I think they have. Yeah, I think we're going to see them in March, and I think this is the team to get that elusive first win. I really do. I mean, I think everyone would agree with that.
Yeah, and they've been, and like you hit it spot on. It's not necessarily about the fact that they've been, playing. They're all individually great at basketball. So they've been playing together as a team, right? And the chemistry is prevalent and the spacing is perfect. And they just, it's a little bit like Omaha basketball, the Omaha Mavericks last year. And I know you covered them a ton. That team made sense, right? You watch that team, the pieces fit together. I think that you could say the same exact thing for this Nebraska basketball team. One last question before we get you out of here. Are you going to Lincoln today to cover Matt Rhule's press conference?
No, see, this is where the schedule gets kind of weird. I'll be watching at home.
Okay.
I'm solo today to give Matt and Andy some well-deserved. We're all kind of sharing the love of having time off for the first time in God knows how long. So boys are off today.
Okay.
I'm working. I'll be anchoring. We'll be on extremely late because of Alabama OU tonight. So tune in to KTV after that game.
After dark at like 12 a.m.
After dark. Hopefully not.
What will be a 17-hour shift probably. Lauren, real quick, what do you want to hear from Matt Rhule? What is the top thing that you are thinking of? Like, I need to hear him talk about this. I need to hear him address this today.
Well, of course, I'm curious what he has to say. I mean, he touched on the quarterback situation on the radio, but I would like to see his, like, kind of the question you asked me, like, what is his, when you think of what the next step is when it comes to the quarterback position, what is your philosophy in the portal?
Sure.
And how do you see that money being dispersed? He won't say everything, but he can say a little. But then the other thing is, like, okay, we're a week out almost from them actually playing Utah. Like, this is not an easy game.
Yeah.
Like, I want to hear more about what he thinks these two young running backs can do and how they plan to attack Utah, because that's not going to be easy. So it should be a good press conference.
It's a great point, and it really will be a opportunity game for a lot of the younger guys, and to see how the development has happened and how backwards hat Coach Matt has hopefully improved the defensive line. So
backwards hat,
hat, Coach Matt. Nobody does it better. Lauren, thank you so much for joining us today. KETV sports reporter, you're the best, and I appreciate you coming on. We'll talk to you in the future.
Thanks for having me on, you guys. Have a good one.
You too. Lauren Michelson of KETV. Also, shout out to KETV's Rob McCartney, absolute local legend of Omaha, who's retiring after a long tenure at KETV. They had some beautiful things on honoring him yesterday. Saw a lot of love coming in from his colleagues on Twitter and whatnot. So congratulations to Rob on retirement. Should be a lot of things are changing in the Omaha television industry, but it's always been one that everybody that I've met who's worked in TV in Omaha has always been a great professional and great to me. And Lauren and Matt Satil and Andy Kendi are no exception to that rule. So glad we were able to have Lauren on talking. I'm telling you, those people, Matt and Andy and Lauren and even Eddie, who helps them out in the sports department, they cover everything. They are at every single event, whether it be high school, whether it be college, whether it be some if it's a special semi-pro event, the College World Series, KETV does an incredible job covering it for the Metro. All righty. It's a Friday football fiesta. It's a championship Friday football fiesta. I will talk to you about, man, we got a good NFL slate. We got a juicy NFL slate, Jimmy Chavez. A lot of teams jockeying for playoff position. Some teams trying to get in to the playoffs.
Oh, come on. We just want to talk about the Bears.
No, we don't.
Come
no,
on.
we don't.
This
And
is
we got
the biggest game in
and we got the college football playoff coming. We will be talking all about that and our final segment of the week. Matt here on Gary and Matt, along with Jimmy Chavez, 1620 The Zone. Alrighty. Final segment of the week. It has been a fun one. It's been a good one. We're going to cap it off with some fun here. Friday Football Fiesta, a playoff Friday Football Fiesta. One game tonight, Oklahoma versus Alabama. Bama 1-point favorite after losing to Oklahoma in Tuscaloosa a couple of weeks ago by a score of 23-21, where Alabama basically outplayed Oklahoma all the way through, but some crucial turnovers by their quarterback, Ty Simpson, ended up kind of costing them that game. So it'll be interesting tonight to see if Alabama can overcome that, and the fact that Kalen DeBoer might have a Brett Venables problem if they end up losing, as Venables will go 3-0 against DeBoer and Bama if they end up winning tonight's
it's Venables,
game.
not Stoops.
And Oklahoma has an opportunity to be the first team since 1893 to beat Alabama twice in one season, which is an incredible stat, which speaks to how dominant that program has been for a very, very, very
college
long
football was
time.
much simpler back then before ESPN ruined it. Those were the days.
Hey, don't forget. So we've been teasing all day. We're going to give away 2 pairs of tickets right now, okay, to Creighton men's basketball. Okay, so here's what's going to happen. I'm going to give you a question for the Marquette game. And then I'm going to give you a question for the Utah Tech game, okay? You can only email for one, okay? You can only win 1 pair of tickets, okay? So when one is done, when somebody has won 1 ticket, then I'll tell you, hey, the other tickets are open, so you can answer that question. But you can only win either pair, whether it be the Marquette game or the Utah Tech game.
Utah Tech's where it's at.
The Marquette game is tomorrow, Saturday, at the CHI Health Center. Tip-off is at 7:30. The Utah Tech game, let me look here to see what I believe tip-off is also late.
Why?
As well. The Utah Tech game, sorry, it's on Monday. It's on, wait. What's going on here? Why is my schedule? Okay. Utah Tech game is on Monday, the 22nd. Monday, the 22nd.
That's this coming Monday.
Okay. So, Monday, the 22nd. It's at, I'm losing it here, 7 o'clock. Okay. So, I'm going to give you 2 questions. One for the Marquette game tomorrow at 7:30. One for the Utah Tech game, 7 o'clock on Monday. All right. Here's the first question. Okay. This is for the Marquette game. If you want to go to Marquette, answer this question by emailing Jimmy at 1620 The Zone. JIMMY at 1620 The Zone. Here's the question. Creighton basketball defeated Xavier a couple of days ago by 41 points. It was the second highest margin of victory against Xavier on the road. The highest margin of victory before that came by 12 points. Okay.
That's the answer.
The score of that game, okay, the score of that game was 77-65. It happened in the 2019-2020 season. Who was the leading scorer in that game? Who was the leading scorer in the game where Creighton beat Xavier on the road by 12 points in 2019-2020 season? Who was the leading scorer in that game? You answer that question. First person to answer that question correctly.
Shout out Eudora, Kansas.
At Jimmy, or at email Jimmy at 1620 Zone. First person to answer that question right, you're going to the Marquette game tomorrow at 7:30. Here's the second question. This is for the Utah Tech game. Okay. Want to go to the Utah Tech game? It works better for your schedule. You already have plans for tomorrow on Saturday. You want to go to the Utah Tech game on Monday. It's at 7 o'clock. Be fun at the Chai. All you got to tell me is, where is Creighton's center, Alexa Dimitrievich? Where is he from?
You just wanted to say that.
Where is he from? Where is Dimitrievich from?
I'm going to say North Platte.
Where is his country of origin? You just have to give me his country of origin, and then you will be going to the Utah Tech game. Jimmy at 1620 The Zone. Okay? So you can only win 1 pair of tickets. Jimmy will judge that. But once again, if you want to go to the Marquette game, who was the leading scorer when Creighton defeated Xavier on the road by 12 points? If you want to go to the Utah Tech game on Monday, tell me, where is Alexa Dimitrievich?
First email into me is wrong.
It's wrong. Okay. So this should be fun. So
second email to me is correct. Edward, you win. I will do what I have to do here after the show.
Though? Which game though?
The first one.
The first one.
Yeah,
Marquette game. Marquette game is off the table.
And your correct answer from Eudora, Kansas, Mitch Bala.
Mitch Bala, who is also now an assistant coach of Creighton basketball, and he calls in to the Blue Jay Overtime Show and gives us our best.
He was always a stud.
He is a stud. All right, but if you want to go to the Utah Tech game on Monday, December 22nd, tell us, where is Alexa Dimitrievich from? Where is his country of origin? Okay? All you got to tell us. All right? Easy peasy, pumpkin breezy. All right, here we go. Football. Today, Oklahoma plays Alabama. I'm going to go with Bama. I don't see, I think this Oklahoma offense, ever since John Mateer has hurt his thumb, it's been tough. He's not been playing like the quarterback he has in the past. I think this Oklahoma defense is great. At the same time, I just don't think that you can consistently count on turnovers to lead you to the promised land. All right. Turnovers are hard to come by in the playoffs. Things get tighter. Offenses, they get more efficient. They go ahead and they give you their best stuff. I just don't think that Ty Simpson is going to have a similar performance in Oklahoma as he did in Tuscaloosa. And I think too that losing to Georgia for Alabama, that was a nice kick in the ass. I think it was. I think that they're gonna feel it. They're gonna turn it up. They know that, hey, we were playing some of our best football a couple of weeks ago. We can turn this around. They still can compete for the national championship. I just think it's going to be a real uphill battle. Just because their run game, Jimmy, has not been there all season long. It just simply has not. They have not been able to consistently, move the ball on the ground. And so I think that it's going to be tough for Alabama to make a deep run in the playoffs without having a proper run game. But I will pick them tonight to go ahead and beat Oklahoma. And then we'll go ahead. I mean, look, the two G5 games, you know who I'm going to pick. I'm going to pick Oregon and
You're not picking Big Jim?
But I'll say this, man, the Miami Texas A&M game, if you like big boys, if you like D linemen, if you like offensive linemen, if you like the trenches, if you like to go ahead and see, guys who are going to be playing on Sundays, who are going to be picked very high in the draft, you have a plethora of them on both sides of the ball.
These are all things you're talking about in Nebraska.
Man, these are two dynamic teams. And really, it's funny. I think that the lines on both sides of the ball are going to battle each other, and it's going to be awesome to watch. But frankly, it's going to come down to the quarterbacks. What version of Marcel Reed do you get? What version of Carson Beck do you get? Do you get the version of Carson Beck who's wheeling and dealing against Notre Dame? Or do you get the version of Carson Beck who's throwing interceptions against Louisville? Do you get the Marcel Reed who looked like a Heisman Trophy candidate early in the season? Do you get the Marcel Reed who looked timid and out of place against Texas? Okay. And I think that's what this game is going to boil down to. What version of the quarterbacks do you get? You get the best version of either one. That's the team who's going to win. All right, let's look at the NFL real quick. I want to touch on a couple of games here. First off, Tampa Bay plays Carolina. Who would have thought that game at Carolina is going to go? It's basically going to go very far in deciding.
Come on, Baker.
Who will win the NFC South? Tampa Bay, man. Their defense has taken a massive step back, and now they got Kendall Vildor starting for them at corner. Lions fans can tell you, Bears fans can tell you, having Kendall Vildor play corner and start a corner for your team, not a good sign. Tampa Bay secondary has been blown up. Their linebackers, while they've been really good in the run, have not been good in the pass. Carolina, picking a Carolina Panthers game is pointless, okay? There's no point. There's no point on betting on them. There's no point in they'll go ahead and they'll beat the Rams, and then they'll, off of a bye, they'll go and play New Orleans and lose to them, all right? They are in the upside down. They are the Stranger Things teams of the NFL.
Nice.
I don't know. Topical. I don't know if they're a good team. I don't know if they're a bad team. All I can tell you is that they're 7-7 and have a chance to win the NFC South, which I don't think anybody gave them a chance to do in the beginning of the year. We have the Suck Bowl between the Giants and Saints. That'll be awesome. We have I don't think it will be, but a potential loser leaves town game in Cincinnati versus Miami. That should be exciting. The 3:00 window, though. Look, you have you have a stinker in Atlanta versus Arizona. Gross. Who cares? And you got to see, here's the thing. I would call Houston versus Las Vegas a stinker because Vegas is terrible. I love watching Houston play. I'm a fan of the Texans. I enjoy watching them play football. They've been an electric team, especially on the defensive end. So I will be watching that game, but listen to this. Jacksonville, Denver. That'll be a banger of a matchup. Both those teams are playing high quality football. Denver's defense has been great, but do you know who's been sneaky? Jacksonville's defense. They have been playing some great D. That'll be an awesome game. The total on that is 46.5. I would bet the under. And then you have a do or die game. Both teams with their backs against the wall. Pitt goes on the road to Ford Field to go ahead and play Detroit, 325. Both those games. So Jacksonville's a 305. the Pittsburgh Detroit game. That's
Detroit can't afford a loss. Pittsburgh could survive one, but still not recommended.
And also too, you got to realize that New England plays Baltimore, and so you're right. Pittsburgh could survive a loss because Baltimore's probably going to end up losing New England. At the same time, Pittsburgh wins and they might be in.
You don't want to FAFO.
Detroit wins here, and they play the Bears at the end of the season, but they also do play the Vikings next week too. So if they win this game, they still could get to 11 wins, even though that this has not been an ideal season for them, and they've struggled kind of on both sides of the ball at times. Let me give you one game though, before I talk about my game real quickly. One game though that I think is a sneaky one for all you gamblers out there. Cleveland plus 10.5 against Buffalo. Okay. Cleveland is still a really, really good defense. I understand that they're not going to score the football. They may not score the football a whole lot, but this game's at home. It's cold. It's 37 degrees. It's going to be tough to throw the football in. And the Buffalo Bills are not good against two types of defenses here, single high coverage and man. Okay. And Cleveland runs the most single high coverage in the NFL.
Oh, look!
And they run
that nugget,
and they run a ton of man coverage against the NFL against teams. And it's just because it has nothing to do. Now, Josh Allen himself, I think, struggles against single high safety coverage, but Buffalo just doesn't have the weapons to get separation in man, and so it's a little bit on Josh and a little bit on his weapons. I think Cleveland's defense does enough to keep this close, and I think the fact that it's cold and they can just run the ball. And if you're going to do anything against this Buffalo Bills defense, it's you should run the ball. I think Cleveland keeps this a lot closer than people realize. I think plus 10.5 is a really good number for the Browns. All right.
Yes. Quit dodging it here. Quit sweeping it under the rug.
I've never been more confident that the Bears.
It. Let's go.
I've never been more confident that the Bears are going to beat the Packers in my entire life. That scares me. As much as it excites me.
That scares me for you.
It scares me. It scares me how confident I am about this game. They outplayed them in the second half. They are running the football.
They win that game if Caleb runs instead of throws.
Yes, they are running the football better than anybody else in the league. They are physical. They are dominant. They hit hard. They're not healthy, but they're not as injured as they used to be. I think that this team has a ton of momentum. They know that this is their opportunity. They know that this is the moment. They know that if they're going to change the narrative, they got to win a game like this. And you'll win and you're in. You win this game and you're in the playoffs. It's be the first time 6 years since you've been in the playoffs. So this is one of those things where the Bears can write their own destiny. They can flip the script. They can do something that they haven't done in a long time, and that's handily beat the Green Bay Packers in Soldier Field. It scares me how much I'm confident, but I just think that Zach Tom being out, Christian Watson, whether or not he's in, him being hurt won't be good for him. And then Michael Parsons being out too.
69-2, Bears win.
No, I think it's 28-21. 28-21, Chicago Bears win and cover. All righty. That has been our Friday Football Fiesta, our college football playoff Friday Football Fiesta. Live, laugh, and punt from Gary, from Matt, from Jimmy, from 1620 The Zone. We want to wish you a happy holidays. Have a good weekend. We will see you next week on 1620 The Zone.